We're back. We are back, beat down. And hey, we have a whole nother best of three series. And this one, we also, I think, disagree on. Right? If I'm not mistaken, which honestly, I love the fact that you and I have had kind of opposing thoughts in a lot of these. If I'm not mistaken, you predicted Bay State.
I did, yeah.
And I predicted Wildcard. There have been a lot of kind of crazy things coming to fruition, though. Today, of course, no team ended up taking that. If you guys didn't end up seeing, EGP did end up beating Maryville University. So I think that's, two of our predictions kind of out the window right there. But that is okay. I am incredibly excited about this one. Honestly, I thought that this would be more contentious of the two. However, I tend to be wrong in these kinds of things. It always ends up being the one that I think is going to be a much closer game that turns into a sweep. And it's the same kind of situation, right? One of these teams is going to end up going home. One of these teams is going to go to the playoffs.
Right. The situation is the same as it was in our first series of the night. It is loser goes home and the winner gets their spot in the top 8. This time around, it's going to be Wildcard Gaming versus Bay State Maroon. And they're fighting for the same thing, to win or go home. And honestly, both teams definitely ended up having their share of misfortune, ending up being sent down here to the lower parts of the bracket, but they do get that second chance to be able to try and climb their way back up.
Yes, that's what we love here. Second chances, but that's all you get, okay? No more than 2.
Right.
So we do have, of course, Bajani, we've got Dragonmin, we've got Serenok, we've got Sophist Sage, we've got Brain on the side of Bay State. And then, of course, coming from Wildcard, we've got Alarim, Griffin, Strompus, Minui, and Pacus. And I think probably one of the biggest recognitions in terms of something we can all really agree on is when we're looking at bottom lanes, Sophist Sage and Brain is one of the strongest bottom duos we have right now in all the 16 teams that were in this initially.
They are really strong, and honestly, one of the bright spots here for the Bay State roster. Of course, I think their solo laners are also quite good, Serenok and Bajani, and I think Dragonman is also pretty strong as well in the jungle. But I think overall, Sophist Sage, Brainy, definitely a high point at the Nerd Street Winter Qualifier, I think it was last weekend. They had a really strong showing, especially Sophist Sage, playing out of his mind most of the time. Did manage to get his Caitlyn, but also does really well on the Jhin pick. He can pretty much play any of the stuff that is meta at the moment here.
Yeah.
And I just wonder what Wildcard are actually going to let him get through. So this bottom lane 2v2, I think is probably going to be the most interesting one to me, because I think that is where Bay State have an advantage.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say just kind of looking at base stats, to compare like Sophist Sage and Minui, Sophist Sage has, as of late in the last couple of weeks, really, really good statistics and is potentially sometimes a saving grace for this team, right? Some of the other areas, while they are really good solo lanes, might end up falling behind. And Sophist Sage does so well that, I mean, seriously, they can play from behind and they're totally okay with this. I do think that, that it's worth noting, of course, Alarim being one of the stronger top laners in the game and how much pressure is kind of put on the top lane and how much that can also sway the game. So I like to see how these lanes, Riot is doing a really good job of equalizing the prowess of each of these lanes. All of them have kind of the same opportunity to be hard carries or to transition a losing game into what could be a win.
Yeah, and I mean, if we just look at Wildcards overall as a whole, I mean, they still have a good roster that they're working with here. And of course, a team that's been around in the amateur scene for quite a while now, has a lot of history. Of course, the famous Wildcard Red roster from last year, who managed to win the majority of the tournaments, I believe at least 3 of them. And then, of course, placed really well at Proving Grounds too. I believe it was top 6 that they did. And they're really good at putting together some of these top teams. So they're looking to pretty much do that yet again here in 2022.
Yeah, maybe that's part of the reason I always kind of lean a little towards Wildcard. It's just they've had so much prowess in the scene for such a long time. And, even with some of the players they have played together in the past, whether or not they're coming back together or have been continuously playing together, there is a lot of cohesion within this team. So you don't really see kind of situations where, things just immediately drop out of the hands of Wildcard. It tends to be, all right, if the game starts in their favor, they do a really good job of riding that out and trying to maintain that top side of things. But they do have a little bit more difficulty playing from behind. And so I think Bay State is another team that, man, when they come out, they hit the ground running. There is nothing stopping them. And so that's absolutely going to be their intent going into this one up against Wildcard, especially recognizing how that's maybe one of their weak points is playing from behind.
Yeah, and I really like that you bring that up, because it is interesting to see that clash in styles here for how these teams kind of like to play the game. You kind of called it out right perfectly, where Bay State, they are very aggressive and they do recognize when they have leads and are not afraid to push them to get more leads, take more from the map from their enemy opponents, and it ends up more often than not working out for them, but sometimes they do bite off more than they can chew. And on the other side, Wildcard, at least this iteration so far, does seem to be playing very defensive, drafting more towards scaling, not being as proactive in the earlier parts of the game. So seeing how these two teams are going to interact, I think is going to be really exciting, especially because we already know Bay State, they're going to be aggressive no matter what. It's just, will Wildcard be able to neutralize it and play towards that late game that they love to play for?
And how much pressure really goes to their mentals, right? You got to consider that, particularly going into game number 1, where the pressure should be about even keeled, right? You're going into a best of 3. You acknowledge that, hey, whoever wins this is going to be a match point, and whoever is facing that match point is, up against the wall of being dropped out of the tournament, not being able to play next week in the playoffs. And there are a lot of really good teams in the playoffs. I do think that Bay State is probably, in terms of these teams, in all the teams that we have across the board, has shown the most improvement as individuals and then also cohesively as a team. And that's something that not only you acknowledge, but you have to respect on top of it.
That's right, Jolly. Now we're going to go into draft as we are going to see what some of these early picks are going to be. The Tom Kent is definitely a strong takeaway from Alarum. It's definitely a rough time, so they just don't want to let that one go. It is rude. And I like the Karma ban, too, just because Jin Karma, I think, even though we don't see it a lot, is actually a very oppressive bottom lane, and it's something that, more often than not, Bay State will go for. Put Soft Sage and Brainy on that, and they just run bottom lane. It's just absolutely disgusting to see. So we'll see whether or not he manages to get Jin, and maybe another range support. Lux already notably is taken away, too. So I think Wildcard are really just focusing their ability on making sure Sophistage and Brainy, don't manage to have that really strong 2v2 they love.
Yeah, and Brain offers so much. I mean, of course, support, being a support player, but seriously loves to also play these aggressive champions. So we can see it right there. Karma, some of you might have been surprised maybe that Karma wasn't in the picks and bans. I think at all in that last matchup that we just had, absolutely going to be a very high priority and likely will be banned out from all of these games. And in fact, I'm really surprised that we're not seeing something like the Caitlyn.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking too.
Yeah, I mean, we see the Jinx ban out, but we don't see the Caitlyn ban out.
I think they will.
Is huge priority. That's got to be final ban. They're going to go with the Thresh. That leaves the Caitlyn open as an opportunity here for Soft Sage.
So that could end up coming through. They could also go the Jin route if they really wanted to. Wildcard banned away the two very prevalent range supports that end up going really well with the Caitlyn. So maybe they are less worried about giving that away and more worried about the Thresh being picked on one, which is what a lot of teams are doing. And it is a really strong champion at the moment here. However, that opening does mean we are going to see the Caitlyn come through here. And I think Jin is pretty much the only AD carrier, or at least the only top tier AD carry besides maybe Ezreal, that Wildcard could potentially go for.
Gives them a couple of options here. Yeah, I was going to say they can pick it right now. They can wait until that third selection if they wanted to, just to see maybe for a counter pick or two. But I think that's a smart option, right? Leaving more of an opportunity for a counter pick because you do have the two selections. And no big surprise, this has been massive priority in the last couple of patches. Going for ADC to start. And even if you don't start with the ADC, the other general first pick is going to be the jungle because of how much strength they show and how they can really just pressure in these lanes early on. We've seen how many teams invade well before, hitting level 6 or getting an ultimate.
All right, and already we're kind of seeing Wildcard draft a little more for earlier parts of the game here, especially when you see Xin Zhao and the fact that he's going to be very active in the coming minutes. I'm looking to Griffin to try and set up some of these plays in the early game. Dragonman is going to be playing Lee Sin, definitely one of his most practiced champions. He's been playing on it really well here. And at this point, you're just going to look for the support pick. Leona, not ranged, but also still gives you that potential lockdown and easy setup for Soft Stage to be able to set up traps underneath you here. I actually think the Zillion pick would be pretty good if they end up going for that one, but I could just be a hover.
Could just be a hover, yeah. They've got some good resilience here. They've got the front line with Griffin. And that's less surprising. The Zillion isn't necessarily one that is like going to be banned out by Bay State, right? So that's kind of one where you want to say, hey, where else can we find a really strong pick? And we all know how good Alarum is on this Urgot. It's not something I would want to face up against. It is something that I'm going to have to call the shots on, though, and I can imagine he's feeling very comfortable already, even knowing that there's a counter pick ability.
Yeah, and the fact that they're picking it here on 3 wildcard can just start to ban away top laners. You're already seeing the Jace come through. Maybe another range pick as well, just to make sure LRM has the best matchup. But overall, it's one of his most played champions. The dude is absolutely insane on it. So it is a big deal that he's able to find an opportunity for the pick here. And I think on Bay State side, you're probably just going to look to start banning away supports if you can here. Maybe some mid laners. I mean, Corki is really good. If you're not going to play Victor, you can take that off the table as well here. But I think Victor might be something more towards what Bay State are going to play for themselves here. You just got to imagine that there's going to be a mid-lane trade going on here, since Wildcard are probably going to pick mid on 4.
Yeah, preventing the Corki scaling from being added to this already high scaling composition that's on the side of Wildcard is definitely a good thing. And certainly looking to ban out some AP. Neither of these teams has really locked in AP damage yet. You know, it's all AT. Granted, this is one of those metas where you don't need to split things 50-50, right? All you need is one strong AP player, and that is plenty of damage diversity across the board. So it is going to be Bay State saying, all right, we don't want to offer the Victor up. That's just too much of a solid potential and adds to the cohesion of this team for Wildcard. And that means that, hey, they have a little less of a decision to make here, but they also themselves have banned out the LeBlanc to prevent that one going over to Serenok.
Okay, so they're going to go for the Rel instead in favor of just giving Pawkus a champion. They already know what this... They already know that they're playing into the Leona, so they're just going to wait till the very last possible minute to pick out that mid lane. I think Vex is something they could definitely be looking towards here. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like what other mid laners are available.
There's
so many of them banned away.
Played here, yeah, like the ones that we've seen played. Syndra is still on board, right? Syndra is another
That's
one
true.
We've seen quite a bit of recently, especially with the Scout of the Week. It can really provide a lot of positioning. It does get kind of scary with having Scout of the Week when you have something like Curtain Call, when you have something like the ultimate from Urgot, to where if you accidentally Scout of the Week, you could miss an ultimate that is expended from one of your teammates. So it's something you do want to kind of avoid here, as the final decision is being made by Bay State. They're hovering the Garen, and that's actually literally when I was thinking you were talking about the range top laners. Instantly, my other thought is, you know, Jace and Gnar are both very good into this Urgot. Of course, given the prowess that Alarim has on Urgot, how much can you really do with that? We'll have to see.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, especially with how susceptible to dives Gnar is early. When you think about Griffin, he's probably going to be trying to make that move to the top side of the map and immediately try to punish Bajani and really try to set him behind as much as they can in the earlier parts of the game, just to make sure he's not having that much of an impact later on here. And it's looking like Strumpus is going to go for the Azir, actually a champion he's got a lot of time on. Even when he played for Supernova, it was a champ that he would definitely lean on when it was a little more popular here. So the DPS, the scaling is absolutely there for Wildcard's side. And I think on the other end here at Bay State, they just have that more front to back team fight going for them here. Early in the game, I think is the most interesting thing to me, because I kind of suspect Griffin is going to be pathing away from bot lane in the early couple of minutes just to try and punish this Gnar early on. Oh, it's not actually a Gnar, it's a Renekton.
Oh, it's Renekton. Well,
wow, we got baited.
No reason.
I mean, that's
straight got baited.
So never mind that part. Griffin's probably going to start top to bottom, and it's going to be about the bottom side of the map. Oh, wait, it is a Gnar.
It is a Gnar. Okay, okay. It is a Gnar. My notes are filled with scribbles now.
Okay, so
I much prefer the Gnar into this Urgot for this matchup, at least for the early parts of the game, right? And it's still something that Griffin is going to want to path up to help Alarim out, because as Renekton, when it gets into the later parts of the game, as long as you're not put very far behind, it is an absolutely survivable matchup. However, Gnar has a lot more opportunity, especially when you're talking about the Fear Beyond Death, right? When you have the potential to get into Mega Gnar to grow your health or expand your health to where Fear Beyond Death doesn't actually capitalize on a kill, it's a pretty sneaky play that you can make.
Yeah, that is definitely an interesting one. The other thing I'm looking towards too is, because now that we know it's Gnar top lane, Griffin, it does end up pathing away, and we see a lot of attention on this bottom side of the map. Soft Sage could very well be getting a lead here on this Caitlyn, because we know that's how she likes to play the game. You end up getting her early play, you take down that turret as soon as possible, move her somewhere else, and just keep doing it. And Sophist Sage is very practiced on this Caitlyn. Lately, he's been playing it quite a bit, and when he manages to get it, the dude is nuts in team fights. His positioning is really quite good and something to watch out for. So they are going to have to try and really get on top of him. You have a lot of engage for Wildcard side, which is really good for this because you have Rel with that Pharaohmancy. You have Griffin who can go in. I mean, Alarim could do it realistically too as well. So there's a lot of ways to pressure this Caitlyn.
There are. I do like, some wombo combo opportunities too, really actually coming kind of out of both of these teams. I love Shockwave Solar Flare. That is by far one of my favorite combos that you can get. And really either order is totally worthwhile. Whether you're using the Solar Flare to slow down so that Seradoc as this Orianna is capable of getting the ball into a position or throw it onto potentially Brain, who's then plays in, is the other side of that. Is a beautiful, beautiful combo when it works out. And then on top of that, if you get the Gnar, it's exceptional. And, with the Azir wall as well, you get yourself another little opportunity for, an area to kind of throw some members into. So there's a lot of really cool counterplay, actually, with both of these compositions that I'm very excited to see. Alarim, of course, with the Urgot is probably one of the lesser, cohesive champions, aside from the fact that he's going in, he's trying to get the flips right, he's in your face. And that's definitely something that will supply Wildcard and kind of the back line here of Strompist and Minui to allow either Griffin and Pockets to get in further on the fight, or just to supply the damage to come through from the rest of Wildcard.
Right, and that's why the early game, I think, is going to be very interesting for both these teams. Again, Wildcard probably wanting to pressure top a little bit more early on in base state, trying to play through this bottom lane. Dragonman is the least one I'm watching too, just for base state side, to see how they're going to be able to navigate this early game, because there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to find some of these angles early and help Brainy set up some of these plays in the early minutes of the game. On Wildcard side, although they can be very active, I think they're very happy with how they're going to be in the later parts of the game, just with how much damage Trump is going to be able to do on this Azir.
Yeah, that and, Alarim definitely does. You want to hit level 6 before you're even engaging in any of these team fights, right? You're not dealing a ton of damage. You have to put yourself into kind of a precarious position to be able to actually supply all of that damage, to be able to rotate and get the passive pops off, and use it all effectively as opposed to just what's directly in front of you. But it definitely sets up for sure for a lot of success from Minui and Pockets. That's probably, honestly, I've seen a lot of these matchups before. But because we've been talking about so much about Brain, about Sophist Sage, about Minui and Pockets, this is really going to be my biggest point of contention. I'm going to want to keep eyes on this bottom lane as much as possible. And the same could likely be said about these junglers.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair. Like, with how these things have changed in terms of the teleport changes in season 12, bot lane 2v2 has definitely become a much larger point of focus, especially since top laners can't join in anymore. Finally, the wait is over. We don't have to vamp anymore, Jolly. We're gonna get into game one.
Yeah, we don't have to guess what's going to happen for any more of this. We get to finally see what is going to happen. We're about 48 seconds into this one, but nothing exciting has taken place yet on the Rift. A couple of pings coming out. You can see that Alarim does have eyes right now on Dragonman and is just letting the team know that this Lee Sin is towards the top side of the map, but a pretty standard start otherwise from the rest of the team here.
So far, things gonna be pretty chill early on. I don't think we're gonna see any exciting invades like our previous series.
Yeah, a little more boring, but that's normal, right?
Wow.
Especially, it's true. All right, hey, I go from a caster's perspective. From a perspective of, the people viewing, of course, we have a little bit of a client issue right now, so we're going to try to fix that up before actually going into game. Much better to acknowledge these things before the game is underway and before things are actually taking place. And that's how quick, that's all it takes. All it takes is a couple seconds for production to say, okay, we're back on point, we're where we need to be. And you know what? Yeah, sure, maybe it seems a little harsh to say, oh, it is more boring, but it is, right? Like you're talking about a game that we have seen a lot of invades on. The anticipation, though, in it being more boring is expected, because this is a massive series. This is going to tell us who is going home from this tournament, and it's also going to tell us who we are going to be watching next week in the playoffs.
That's right. Both of these teams, again, playing for top 8, Jolly. Opportunity to, well, make it to the playoffs, as you said. So far, got Bay State Maroon and Wildcard Gaming so far. Oh, there's the level 2.
Nice little attempt at initiation there. Very little damage actually being thrown back and forth between these two ADCs. That's usually one of the things that we see, is trying to get a little bit of an opportunity, maybe for once either of these junglers hits level 3 to say, hey, that is just an opportunity, right? A little bit of damage, a couple extra hits that you get down onto the opposing ADC is big. You want to try to avoid Pockets and Brain, obviously, because they are pretty tanky themselves, have a lot of opportunity to try to escape out of these fights, but no big surprise, Sophist Stage, the first one to find some pressure, does have a bit more range than this Jhin. Oh my goodness, a flash away from Serenok right there.
Yeah, they're really nice gank there. Only does the second buff on the top side, and Griffin manages to come through. Oh, I think Serenok's dead.
That looks like it, but Griffin's going to take one tower shot and not risk losing more shots or the double buff right there.
Yeah, and that would have been pretty dangerous. But ultimately, like, there was a nice play from Griffin, support his mid laner. You get the flash out of Serenok, which means he's under a lot of pressure the next couple minutes when Griffin will eventually show his face back in the mid lane. So far, Dragonman hasn't been able to do too much, and I think because he showed up there, Dragon might go for this scuttle and potentially see if there's a dive here. I mean, it's possible. Okay,
Yeah,
he's
probably
not
just
gonna do
poking.
it.
Yeah, maybe throwing down some vision there. I'm not even sure if a ward was actually placed. We'll see when the recall comes through here from Dragonman. Serenok already having to go back, though, and use the teleport on the re-engage. So that is 2 summoner spells down from this mid laner. Gives a lot of opportunity for Griffin to say, yeah, mid lane is the place that I want to be. It is the place I want to focus right now. Slow start beatdown.
I was literally going to say, not a whole lot has really taken place at the moment here. I mean, because Serenok ended up getting pressured a lot, I think just good CS from Strumpus. He is already up. Strumpus is already up a good amount, but now we have Brainy already finding some of these roam angles here, and I think Strumpus, he knows something is wrong. He senses the disturbance, and he's going to dodge out that supersonic wave.
The pings help with the spidey senses, right?
They
Not
do,
so much
don't
necessary when the rest of your team, when the bottom lane is like, hey, we're missing Brain. Brain's not here. Be aware, Strumpus. We know that they're trying to get some responding pressure because Serenok now does not have the flash in hand anymore, so Brain is going to concede that one. Come on down. And actually a really nice little opportunity there. Dragonman trying to collapse on that, potentially finding a pinch between those members. It didn't work out here. That means that we also see a bit of push forward, a movement forward by Puckus, as we can see that Griffin is in the enemy's jungle at the moment. Once again, looking for something on Serenok. This is no surprise. If you get the flash down from the mid lane, you force out the teleport relatively early, you're setting yourself up for a nice opportunity for a first blood, and that is going to do it. Hand it over to Strumpus. You couldn't be happier.
Really easy slip and slide coming through from Strumpus to make sure he gets the extra damage, and that's the first blood. It's going to be really nice, punishing Serenok for that early positioning and getting early kill. I think it was Strumpus who picked it up, but you can see it. There's that ward right there. Serenok doesn't realize what's happening before it's too late, and he just can't flash out either. And it is Strumpus who picks up the kill. Big deal.
Oh my gosh, but Johnny is going to probably be able to find this one. No way, not taking a lot of damage. That's going to be a dodge by Alarim here. And Bajani, oh my goodness, Bajani very, very close to losing his life after committing to that fight. And, you know, all it would have taken was the Q. I think he was just waiting for that, like, second and a half maybe for the cooldown to come off. But Alarim's like, yeah, try it. I can just walk away from that one. In the meantime, so we stop the Sage, who gets jumped on here. A little bit of responding damage on to Manui. Manui is very low on AP, or on mana, and we just got a little heads up. It was 80 HP right there on the Urgot, and Alarim was able to stay alive.
Yeah, that is pretty nice for him, being able to get back with his life, but ultimately will TP back to lane as well here. You can see Brainy already on the move, is trying to clear some vision and maybe just show his face mid in case Griffin wants to go for another play here. But because he passed the ward, of course, Minui and Pockets are aware. Hey, listen, Sophist, you're by yourself. Why don't you slow it down a little?
Yeah, not a bad decision to do that. Of course, it is going to be, you know, a lot of damage coming from both of these players' autos, from both the Caitlyn and the Jhin, which is why we tend to see the Jhin picked up in response to the Caitlyn, or vice versa if there is an opportunity to do that, because they are pretty even keeled, right? In terms of in terms of champions, they're some of the closest, auto attack damage. You've got a little bit of extra range, right? You've got some opportunities, a little bit more particular, but opportunities for crowd control. So we love to see them staying very, very even keeled here. Only 2 creeps, only a 2 CS difference between them.
Well, not a whole lot else has gone through. Yeah, like everyone's just resetting. First dragon is still on the table as well, but I mean, if we look, Griffin is actually ahead in terms of farm, and he's actually had more of an impact around the map than Dragonmin has at this point here. So he could go for Drake if he really wants to, but the Rift Herald being up could also be very tempting just because of that ability. Set up the dive, you can easily pick up a lot of plate gold here, either mid, maybe on that bottom side of the map. So you got to imagine that's what Griffin is going to do once he clears these topside camps.
You can see the pings coming out there. It looks like maybe Dragonmin wanted to go for the ward, or even honestly just going for a little bit of a breakaway there, but the ward recognition comes through saying, all right, it's not going to be a sneaky play, and Strumpus is far enough back that we're probably not going to pull much off of that. The Zenith Blade does come through. Of course, Braden's just going to be able to back towards the far side of this one. That puts him in a really bad position. It's going to force out the flash over the wall. The Ignite does come out, interestingly enough, onto Griffin there. But so did the ultimate from Griffin.
Right, and Paucus, full HP, a level up. Even with these honey fruits, Brainy's going to have to be very careful here. Johnny, you can see him trying to get that Mega Gnar as soon as he can. He's actually very close. They can look to fight this.
There it is. It's going. Oh my gosh! Just before that happens, Shurima shuffle, and hey, you know what? Strumpus says, "Nice try," but it's not coming to fruition here. Now you've got to kill for both Xin Zhao and Azir. Not where you want to be if you're base state.
This early game, all coming up Wildcard, a team where we more often than not see them play for the later parts of the game. Not as big on the early minute proactivity. They're doing a great job so far here, putting base state on the back foot. So far, they haven't been able to find a whole lot of value. But Johnny, especially, getting punished there, jumping into that fight without that Mega Gnar.
Oh, that is going to be the ultimate to come out. The Shockwave. Of course, Paucus now loses the mount here. It's going to be an easy pickup for Serenok. That's going to be the first point on the board for Bay State here. They're down by over a K, and it's going to force the flash out of Griffin over the wall to get to tower.
So you get the flash, but ultimately Griffin and Wildcard do walk away with that Rift Herald. And we are going to actually see a replay of the fight that took place earlier here. And this is the thing. Johnny, yeah, he is very close, so he feels like he's in a good position to jump into this fight, auto once or twice, and then hopefully go for the transform. But immediate response with that Emperor's Divide means that he ends up going back in.
It was actually Dragonmin also that hit. Oh my gosh, as we get an initiation here by Dragonmin, that might be enough damage right there. It will be, and Dragonmin doesn't take too much damage to get uncomfortable himself. But, you know, honestly, we're talking about how slow this is. This is kind of normal. We're at 10.5 minutes, right? 2 kills on board from Wildcard. That's pretty standard. I'm more surprised at Bay State's, you know, kind of trepidation moving forward on this one in not trying to make some of these early plays. However, it was Dragonmin who was sitting in the jungle trying to peel as much of that as possible before initiating.
Still, being able to find some of these early plays is pretty nice for Bay State Maroon. It is unfortunate Serenok being so pressured. They are going to be able to lose out those turret plates, but because of the TP, because of Dragonmin's appearance, turret itself won't actually go down. It's worth noting too, because of that pressure, Strumpus, he's up 20 CS on Serenok at the moment here. But if you look bot lane, Soft Sage has been farming very, very well. Is about, is probably going to be like 15 CS up on Minui so far. No kills really have come through in this bot lane so far. And I think it has been a little tough just because even though, yeah, no, not a single turret plate's actually gone down here. So Sophist not getting the early lead maybe you usually want to on Caitlyn, but there's still a play to be made here. As I do see pings coming through.
Dragonmin down here. There is no ward. Minui just needs to step forward one more, and Dragonmin will be able to find some sort of connection here. Not gonna get an opportunity though. Minui and Paucus are pushed just way too far to their tower. It gives them the opportunity now for Bay State to say, okay, hey, we might not have been able to find a gank on that one, but with all the pressure that you guys have provided on this bottom side, they can stop the stage. That means that we can instead transition this into the first dragon of the game.
Right, and then part of it is you got a lot of bot pressure. You get that back timer on Strumpist, who is TPing back to lane. But hold on, I think Strumpist, is he trying to maybe force the flash from Serenok?
Ooh. Nice little jump over there by Dragonman, who ends up, I'm really surprised at how many sticky situations Dragonman has actually found himself in. Of course, he hasn't been taken down a single time. He's been able to regain a lot of this CS as well. Now currently in the lead. We're looking at being close to that first item on top of it. Serenok, though, might be in a bad position here. Dragonman is in the wings. It's the dragon kick on top of it. We'll see if
he
they
wants
follow
it.
up on this. He does want it. Does Griffin have enough here?
Oh, I think
Crescent
he does.
Guard still available, and there it is. Dragonman's going to be able to follow it up. Brain shows up in the background. Little thumbs up from Serenok.
Yeah, really nice play from Dragonman, waiting for that engage to be able to kick Griffin and put him in that position where he can't actually do anything but give away his life. Still a good early game for both of these teams here. A lot of back and forth thus far. And I think really it's what these fights are going to come down to is whether or not the carries are going to be able to do damage.
Right. We've seen so little play coming down to the bottom side. That was a cleanse. That was a flash as well. Minui is very low on mana, though. So is Pockets is very low on health.
Oh,
that
I think he's going to
should be
kill
a
him.
kill, no problem for Brain right there. The flash forward by Minui just has to reload now. Oh my gosh, will the Q beat up? There we
almost.
go. Minui takes down one. Can Brain find themselves the double kill? We're going to hop
Oh,
over
he
into the mid
missed.
lane, though, because Strompus is in a bad position here. Emperor's Divide does come out, and there it is. Dragonman starting to light the fire underneath all of the gas that he has accumulated for himself.
3-0 on
Oh my
this
gosh,
pick.
it's still
Well,
going!
Minui ends up getting taken down by the support. I think it was long enough. No, it was long enough that Sophist Stage didn't end up getting the assist, but ultimately you do end up taking him down. And man, that was a situation right there. Strumpus missing his ultimate too was definitely another unfortunate circumstance there. So he does end up falling, is going to lose out on a good amount of gold and XP just because he has no TP and is only just coming back. But I like the aggression from Bay State, being able to try and push people like Strumpus who aren't fully online yet and just find whatever opportunity for Dragonman to become part of these plays.
Let's take another look at that fight, though. Real quick beatdown.
And I mean, it's gonna be the top pod fight.
Rarely are you able to break away from a fight and then come back and it's still going.
Yeah, I mean, this is a long one. Leona definitely does some good amounts of damage with her W, but part of it too is just walking him down.
Step back.
Ooh, the cancel auto too. That's unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, we had a half step back, and then we got the canceled auto on top of it. An attempt to get in the blast cone to send Brain to the other side before going down, but that, honestly, that half step was, I think that might have been enough to consider Minui's demise was written by himself.
Now, Wildcard. They do lose that top turret. Solo gold going over to Bajani, but they're going to commit 4 people to this bottom side of the map. Strumpus has that push, drop his passive to keep Serenok from being able to really shove that wave, and they're going to be able to drop this bottom turret too. But all that attention means we could see Maroon Bay State do the same thing in the mid lane, while also moving all their members up to this second Rift Herald that they can get a lot of value from.
Yep. And they're finding, a lot of value from a lot of these plays, right? The start of this, we saw Wildcard kind of popping off a little bit earlier than anticipated. Granted, it was still, around the 8-minute mark that we actually saw some action coming through here. Bay State says, hey, that's okay. We are also playing for a bit of this late game, right? We want to get to the point where Bajani has the opportunity to come in and gnar out. Of course, gnar being the name also of his ultimate.
Of course.
So being able to gnar out in there, we can take a look at the gold over time. There was a brief moment just past the 10-minute mark where it kind of fluttered over the edge to Bay State, immediately recovered by Wildcard. I think it was from that mid lane play. And then, of course, now we are looking at about was a 1,500. It's been completely evened out back here thanks to the pickup of the second tower by Wildcard Gaming. But man, this is such a contentious game right now. We're at 16.5 minutes over that beatdown, and we are sitting completely even in gold.
Yeah, it's definitely been back and forth. Both of these teams putting in a lot of work in this early game. Soon now, it's going to be interesting how Wildcard are going to play the rest of the game, just because you see the Hullbreaker purchase from Alarum does mean he's more than likely going to be looking for the split push, being alone in the side lane, because it is going to be very difficult to 1v1 him, especially once that Titanic Hydra ends up coming through here. But because Dragon is live, Bay State, they're just going to drop Herald. It's going to not actually
no
get
way!
the charge. But I mean, ultimately,
charge.
you get an easy pickup of the dragon, so I think it's not as big a deal. All they need to be able to do is just walk away from this one.
And they should be able to. And if anything, Paucus is the one that's kind of in a dangerous position because everybody on Bay State is at completely full health. We're going to see the curtain call come out just to maybe try to give some sort of situation. Maybe if Strompist and Paucus could find a pinch there, that would be very good for them. The pigs are coming out, though. There are pigs coming from Bay State saying, there are still 2 members in our jungle. So while we're recalling, we still have to be very, very careful here. Dragonman being the one to kind of proxy those members out.
Right, there are no camps at the moment here, so it's not as big a deal. There's plenty of creeps for Sophist to be able to farm here. At this moment, Bay State in a good position. They managed to be up 1,000 gold now, and they also get the second dragon for themselves, Jolly. And it's an Ocean Soul.
Yeah.
That's gonna be that's just great for anybody who picks it up. No need to do any analysis. Just being able to heal over time constantly is just wonderful. And Bay State being halfway there, being at this point in 4 minutes time to get that soul point here, put Wildcard Gaming in a rough position if they aren't able to stop it is a big deal.
Yeah, anyone who says Cloud Soul is like a lackluster soul just clearly has not played the game.
I said it.
You've said it, come on. It's so, honestly, it's so helpful for these teams who are looking to kind of make the proactive play on these engages or trying to force out some offensive vision and give themselves an opportunity to take advantage of that. If you got some extra speed to boost you up, my goodness, I do think it is still a very, very strong Dragon Soul. Of course, you know, not when we've got something like the busted Chemtech Dragon on board, and the Hextech Dragon as well is very, very strong here, but I still do think it's a little bit underrated as a soul.
Yeah, now that you mentioned Hextech Soul, I don't think we've seen very much of it, but hold that thought.
No. Woo, nice engage right there. Manui try to follow it up with the Deadly Flourish. Dragonman is going to take a lot of damage, but that's okay because on the other side, Paucus also goes down. Out comes the curtain call. Already available. Sofa Sage is going to be the target here. Has to flash over the wall and manages to use that net, the 50 caliber net, to get out of any more potential damage. Wildcard find themselves in a good position.
Yeah, they do, Jolly. They managed to find pretty big pick there. Even though it is 1-for-1, you still get some summoners out of Sofa Sage. You would have been in a tough position here. Now, not a whole lot to really fight for as Bajani is just continuing to farm up in the side lane. Is going to get a very thick Demolish proc and another turret to go into his pocket. Bajani has been picking up a lot of gold here in the side lane, Jolly. And he is really starting to come online here. Like you talked about it. It's a good matchup for Gnar. And how well Bajani has been able to run it early, I think is going to come to fruition later on. You can see the total gold is in favor of Strompus. Yeah, it is huge. He's second highest.
For a top laner in general, let alone a Gnar, to be second highest over both a Jhin and a Caitlyn, that's actually pretty massive. Bajani, you know, I said it. I was like, this is a good matchup for Bajani, right? Having the counter pick ability. Gnar is definitely one of my... Gnar and Jace are the 2 first picks that I'm going to go with if I see a lock-in for an Urgot. But my question was, you know, how good is Alarim at this Urgot? We've seen it's incredibly good, but apparently not good enough.
Well, we'll see. Still plenty of time for him to be able to flex his muscles on one of his most played champions. Again, he is playing more for the side lane with this Hullbreaker build, so we'll have to see how that one ends up playing out. At the moment, with Baron coming up here, and a lot of vision to be set up, Wildcard are going to push mid. They're going to move their way to this side of the map in the river just to try and set up whatever vision lines they can here. Because being able to play for Baron is something that's probably good for them because Alarim, I think, offers a good amount of damage. But I still think ultimately Wildcard, when they make Baron plays, they're probably going to play to turn.
Yeah, they do have to get some pressure. They have to take out Dragonman or do something about that because the opportunities the Bay State has with their with the composition that they have locked in means that they can potentially turn around and after a nice little leash from Wildcard can potentially steal that one away. Sure, it's not something like the Super Mega Death Rocket, but when you have Dragonman with the ability to you know, get the Sonic Wave, follow it up with Resonating Strike to initiate on something like that, it's an opportunity where you might even be willing to sacrifice yourself, right? Just to take that, add it to the other 4 members of your team, and prevent Wildcard from getting that additional pressure that really Bay State does not want to give them.
And right now, Bay State kind of have to let Wildcard take control over this bottom side of the map here. Let them control vision around this dragon because we got 10 seconds till what would be Bay State's sole point here, but do they actually want to fight this one is the question. Bajani is just recalling, has nothing in the rage bar at the moment. The thing is, Wildcard aren't looking for the start, they're looking for the fight.
We find some damage already onto Dragonmin. That shot, the follow-up shot is going to get the slow, but it's not quite enough. A nice little proxy ball there being thrown out by Serenok to say, hey, if you guys get close enough, this is a situation where I can shockwave you. Bajani does find Meganar, gets rooted up here for just a moment by Minuing, who's been doing a great job of utilizing that curtain call the moment it becomes available. Brain maybe looking for an opportunity to find, no ultimate available, of course, but to find a Zenith Blade and a follow-up Q onto the rest of the team. They're really just looking to set Serenok up for a shockwave.
It's going to be tough. He's had a lot of trouble setting those up in the last couple of minutes here. The damage, though, he is definitely up there, and we don't have anyone from Wildcard actually trying to start off this Dragon. We have Bajani's TPing in. Now the Dragon's been started. No Meganar available. Wildcard should be free to burst this one down.
A lot of damage, as he talked about. That Urgot is going to provide a very...
Oh, they're going in.
The fight breaks out. It's going to be a lot of damage to slow on to Sophist Stage. And oh my gosh, look at how much we can see Pak is taking on the backside. But in the meantime, Alarim and Griffin were not able to provide nearly as much as Bay State was in that fight. They did manage to take down Serenok, so a trade for... Oh my gosh, a trade for support is definitely worthwhile. But that is going to be it. Just a 1-for-1 Dragon picked up by Wildcard.
I think it was a really, really nice play there from Pockets specifically. As soon as the play goes in, as soon as Brain goes in, he finds that crash down with the Magnet Storm to make sure the follow-up isn't there, applying a lot of pressure onto Dragonman, onto Sage, onto Serenok so that they can't find value in these team fights, actually put out the damage. So in doing so, Wildcard managed to get the Dragon, come out on top, I think, in this fight, and just continue having pressure here in this mid lane. You have this Azir who's just constantly able to push, and what does that mean? You get first move on the Baron Pit more often than not.
And look at the difference, too, in creep. You're looking at 40 advantage for Strumpist. Strumpist on Azir is scary alone. And it's going to make it pretty hard for Serenok in the early parts of the game to be able to, get some sort of pressure in the mid lane. Of course, we do have a single kill apiece. But that's something that Strumpist is just going to continue to excel at, right? You've got so much additional range. You have so many opportunities to engage, disengage, poke out some of these heavy members and apply a little bit of a slow on top of it. So we do like to see Strumpist working this champion very well. And a lot of comfortability on the side of Wildcard Gaming. You got to acknowledge that, Alarim on one of his favorites, Strumpist on one of his favorites. Griffin on definitely somebody we've seen play a lot of recently.
Oh, we saw the Solar Flare come out mid, doesn't end up finding very much, and all Bay State get for themselves is a little pressure here with this wave being cleared, and finally a turn to be able to clear up vision on this top side, but ultimately, in this game state, a big thing to depend yourself on is Bajani. Whether or not he's going to be able to get the Meganar is a big deal.
Curtain call once again being used here, mostly to just pressure Bay State off of this mid tower, allow for a Wildcard Gaming to reconvene here in the mid lane, and it's kind of been like an ARAM for the last few minutes here. Beatdown, right? We've seen so many of these fights just coming down to 5v5s, 4v4s, whatever it is, around whether it's this top side of the river or literally in that mid lane. Now we can see maybe an attempt at some pressure here to respond to the top side, but it is going to be a recall. The pinks came out from Maroon, but no moves are being made, and we're at 26 minutes in. We've only got 13 kills on the board. We've still got to acknowledge this is a very slow game.
Yeah, ultimately, because of how even these fights are, or rather these teams are in terms of gold and whatnot, these fights are going to be on a knife's edge, where it's going to be very important how these teams are executing them. And I already said it for Bay State, it's going to be about Bajani getting that Meganar when... and being able to use it in these team fights. And for Wildcard, it's Pockets to keep finding some of these engages that he has found. Being able to isolate the core damage-dealing members of Bay State Maroon and just put them in a position where they can't answer the damage Wildcard are putting out.
Yep. Ooh, look at the damage coming from Sophist Sage, though. And this bottom side, of course, where we were kind of anticipating a lot of the action, maybe not the action to come through, but a lot of this even-keeled fighting to come through, is where we're seeing all three of the bounties, of course, on the heads of, funny enough, Sophist Sage and Brain, who is sitting at 2-0-2 thanks to almost a double kill fight on the bottom side pretty early in the game.
And you can see total damage so far here. Of course, is Strumpus by a good margin. Sophist Sage is there behind him. But ultimately, Strumpus on one of his most famed picks, the Azir, has been doing a lot of work this game. Still up 40 CS like you highlighted. Insane damage numbers. And is just team fight ready here. 2 items deep. He has the stopwatch as well. So if he wants to go in for a nice ultimate play where you EQ and try and get this long range CC off, and he can just stopwatch and manage to buy time for his team to join the fight, especially with this next dragon coming up here, I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, and that's the only one so far on the board as well. With, you know, that stopwatch being picked up here by Strumpus. That's generally something that when it gets to like 20, 25 minutes in, you tend to see a few more of those pickups, but I think because of how slowly this game is going, they'd rather stack up some damage and some survivability on top of it for the rest of the teams.
And you see Dragonman constantly fishing here for some of these kills. Bay State, though, putting more pressure on the top side here instead of the bottom side. I mean, nobody is there to answer that bottom wave that Alarum just shoved in. Now he's recalled and TP'd back. He is 2.5 items deep. Now Bajani has no ult to play with.
Now comes the curtain call yet again. Griffin looking for an initiation. The solar flare is going to come out. Here comes the sonic wave. It's not going to be followed up by the resonating strike by Dragonman. Gonna throw out yet another one. That one won't hit though. Bajani takes quite a bit of damage. Now needs to regain or has to wait a little bit and then regain that rage to be able to really participate in this fight, being so low in health, but it's already building back up.
Right, yeah, it is pretty close to the end there where he gets that Mega Gnar. If he's able to find the ultimate, that bar filled, then this is the way to do it. It would be Soul Point. He can't steal it.
Thought he was going to try to hop over the wall with so many members close, maybe try to throw them alongside, but that is a very risky play. Even if you get the dragon, how much is that worth if you end up losing your life and potentially losing the life of another member of your team? So they're going to recognize that, hey, you know what? We did what we could. It's going to be 2-2 for these dragons. Maybe an opportunity for the first Baron of the game. It has been up for about or almost 10 minutes now at this point as we're getting closer and closer to 30 minutes. With only 5 total towers taken down, though, you know, we're getting to those gray screens lasting a long, long time. And sure, it feels a little lackluster, right? It feels like we're at the point where, man, there's only 13 kills still across the board. There's only 5 towers still taken down at about 30 minutes into this game. But you got to consider if one team finds a really big team fight, that is going to change in an instant.
And at the moment, though, with getting that dragon, delaying the soul point rather, so much here for Wildcard has been huge. You can see them set up a little vision on the top side of the map, just so they get an inkling on whether or not the Baron is started, because they got a lot of gold there recently and want to just go ahead and spend it. I think Bay State, it's tough because a lot of these fights, they haven't been able to, well, fight, because a lot of it, their success ends up coming from Dragonman getting a nice insect kick onto somebody and ending up getting a pick that way. But Bajani hasn't been hitting with these Mega Gnar so far. Either he goes Mega before these fights could start, or he gets it forced out of him and in a not favorable position.
He does have Mega Gnar again, but there's not going to be an opportunity to use it. We can see it drop there. Throwing out some boomerangs, trying to just poke some damage down onto
Solar
Alarum.
Flare.
Solar Flare comes out. Maroon, I mean, Bay State wants to fight right here, but they're not finding a position. And not only that, they're taking a lot of damage from Strumpus. They're taking a lot of damage from Manui here on this Jin. So the pressure just kind of remains to push down here by Wildcard on the mid lane. Now Bajani looking to gather more rage. Wildcard kind of wants to get away from this fight, though, and it's going to be Strumpus constantly on the backside just saying, hey, yeah, continue to try to engage. I mean, we're going to walk away easily, and you're going to take more damage easily. The curtain call comes out. That's a good sign for Wildcard wanting to on this one. And they do manage to find out Bajani. Out finally comes the Gnar, but it's not enough, and the rest of the team isn't there to capitalize on it. He doesn't even get out to the rest of the team. A lot in response. This Dragonman is going to have to use the Dragon Kick. Manages to get a few of them with some damage here. Beautifully done. That is why we are Gale Force gamers here. Sophist Sage using that very, very well, finding the headshot on top of it to pick up at least 1 kill for Bay State.
Yeah, still, Minui really wants to go in for this one.
Yes. I was like, I can Gale Force too. I can do it too, but not quite enough damage on the follow-up.
Yeah, Sophist Sage gets chunked out as well by Strumpus and Minui, so he's got a backup too. This means, yeah, it's an easy Baron start coming from Wildcard. Even with Dragonman alive, no vision, you don't know what you're walking into if you're base state. Bajani is still down for 13 seconds. Dragon, look at this, Alarim is playing interference. He's going to do a good job at just keeping this Lee Sin right here and stuck.
Baron, wow, that was pretty quick. Such a good job, actually, by Minui and Alarim there to say, hey, we can, proxy off the rest of the team. We can take the aggro here. Alarim is at the point now. And there we see right there, the Sterix gauge is going to be picked up, so a lot more survivability coming out of this player, even though he had a little bit of a rough time. It's not as though Bajani was fed on the counter side, right? We're looking at literally 0 kills in the top lane, but 3 deaths between the 3 of them. Of course, all of those do transition over as there's 5 assists between them, having moved over to the mid lane, but this continues to just be a straight-up ARAM beatdown.
That's right. They've been very largely grouping up for the most part here, pushing side waves now and then, but really not a whole lot of side laning done, especially with Alarim going the Hullbreaker build. You'd think he would go for more of that style, but I mean, as soon as he can shove out a big wave, he ends up showing up for the team for some of these fights. But with Wildcard now having the Baron, base state, they're starting to get desperate just a little bit. They're starting to fall behind and struggle in some of these skirmishes. They need to try and find a pick or something. But Vijani, who's now level 16, who's getting towards his 3rd item, he's going to have to find an angle because he hasn't been able to all game.
Hasn't. He's been shut down multiple times. The couple of times that he's actually been in a position where he's like, hey, team, I can go in, right? I've got my Mega Gnar up and available. I have the opportunity to go on multiple of them as Alarim decides to flash forward on that one. I'm not sure if that was a misclick right there, but didn't really get anything off of it because Serenok is still very, very high in health here. Wildcard trying to utilize as much of this Baron buff as possible, and they're going to use the passive here from Strumpus to the mid.
And the side laning is finally coming through for Alarim with this Baron buff. He's such a problem, as now all he has to do is hang out, let the double cannon knock down the turret, and he can walk away while his team do the same thing in the mid wave. Mid and top, it's so hard for base state to do anything as their base is slowly falling apart around them.
There's still a minute left on this Baron, and I love the fact that we do have the Baron play gold. It's at 3,600. It's been kind of increasing and decreasing, but it has been stuck right around that point. Of course, it's going to increase to almost 3,900 here as they manage to pick up yet the inhibitor in the mid side. There's only one inhibitor down, but it is an exposed inhibitor on the top. And Wildcard Gaming have really pushed things over the edge. We're looking at 7 towers. Oh no, that is a sad Dragonman who now has to face the gray screen for almost a full minute.
Oh man, this is so rough. Like you said, spawn timers are getting long, and now Wildcard have gotten 3 dragons in a row, Jolly. That's 3 ocean drakes individually. The damage, or rather the healing over time is already something pretty substantial, but the fact that they could potentially get that 4th with the soul would be the nail in the coffin here. Wildcard already up 5k, and ultimately, base state Maroon. Thick lead on their 80 carry Sophist Sage, but he's not able to do anything with it here. He just can't fight, Jolly.
Yep. It's true, even with the Gale Force for repositioning, even with so much damage coming off of these autos, we also haven't really seen many successful ace in the holes, right? But there's been either these members are going down during the team fights for Wildcard Gaming, or they're just way too strong for the ace in the hole to be even be worth throwing out. I am not sure if I count the number of times I've seen that ultimate come out from Sophist Sage.
Ultimately, Wildcard just continue to pick up tower after tower. You can just starting to see this itemization is just ridiculous here. Strumpus is at 4 items, has the death cap. You have the GA built for Griffin, so you can really get in there in some of these team fights. And Minui, 4 items deep. This is also in a very, very powerful position. At this point, base state are going to need a miracle. I mean, maybe a couple miracles.
Yeah. Multiple would really help them out a lot more. It's not the biggest gold lead we've seen, right? But I talked about it even 6 minutes ago, and you just brought it up again, these timers. And there we see the ace in the hole come out from Sophist Sage, but what does it do? It just kind of removes the shield that is currently on Strump, is still at 100% health. And when they've got 3 ocean dragons on top of that, really how much
they're healing
to get?
Not much, especially if you aren't going to do any follow-up. Because now he just heals right back up to full. We're 36 minutes in the game, Jolly. One good fight from Wildcard will close it out.
Absolutely. It's going to take more like 2 to come from Bay State, specifically because there are 2 towers right now defending every single inhibitor at the moment, whereas 8 of them have gone down. Looks like Bay State is trying to defend, at least with Serenok, this top side inhibitor because Alarim is continuing to look to side lane pressure here. Now Bajani looking for an opportunity for an ultimate. Gets pitched out here.
Oh,
it's
he's getting
Griffin
low.
that is the target and just too darn low to be able to do that much navigation out. And it is going to be Fear Beyond Death that ends up taking that one player. Bajani, first one to go down. Brain will also go down in this fight. Sophist Sage has to use both summoner spells right here to stay alive, and man, things are looking harder and harder for Bay State. Out comes that ace in the hole ultimate, gonna follow it up with a Q, but no opportunity there to Gale Force in.
And yet just another inhibitor down, more gold in Wildcard's pocket. They are just completely in control here, not forcing themselves though to be able to end the game here. And we can see it again. This is kind of what we wanted from Bajani, to try and find something, but Serenok, he's not close by. He's trying to clear that wave, and Sophist Sage has to be very careful of the supers that are there and attacking him. But Bajani, he just goes in, and there isn't really a whole lot of follow-up here. So even though he gets a decent stun off, look at the health bars. Aside from Minui on this Jhin, I don't think anybody was really in any danger of falling here on the side of Wildcard.
Yeah, and it was a really good shockwave as well coming out from Serenok that managed to pick up that kill there onto Minui. But we see that Alarim is just on the front line saying, go ahead, hit me. It's going to do nothing. Your big front line in Bajani is already down. Brain is the other one. Both of those members were down and fell pretty early on in that fight, meaning Bay State recognizes we can't do much here. This is just too much of a front line coming out of Alarim, even with pockets maybe not as deep in the fight as he would like to be.
Now Baron back on the map. You have Wildcard resetting here, so plenty of opportunities for Bay State. Actually, a lot of things coming through. I think they're going to try and take a risk here with this Baron, as they're just going to go ahead and start it off. The thing is, Wildcard is here. Curtain Call is available. There's a lot of ultimates good to go on Wildcard Gaming side here, so Bay State might have to play for the turn.
And there it is. Out comes the curtain call. It's going to be Alarim on the front side of this. Ends up getting stunned down. Still no ultimate. And there should be the ultimate
There's
coming out of
a
Benjani.
stun.
There it is. A lot of damage onto Pockets, who ends up going down here. Griffin has separated 2 of these members out, and that means that Benjani is going to face demise right here. Immediately followed up by Dragonman. Brain had gone down really early on, and Griffin says, hey, if peeling is my job, I could absolutely do that. Now these other 2 members that have survived are on the run. It looks like Dragonman is going to be able to actually pick up the kill onto Minui. In the meantime, Strompus says, I'll end the game right here, right now.
He's got the wave. He's got the minions and the attack speed. He's blowing summoner
Flashes.
spells. Bay State Maroon are going to fall in game 1. Wildcard, very clean game. Start to finish, are 1 game away from making it to playoffs.
Almost 40 minutes. I don't think those 10 seconds are going to actually pass with the damage here that Strompus is able to offer up, and that will be the case. Still a very long, hard-fought game that eventually Wildcard is able to take the W on, and you're absolutely right here. Beatdown facing match point for Bay State to try to stay in this fight, and not only that, but to remain in this tournament.
That's right. Bay State not off to the greatest start here in game 1. I mean, ultimately, I think the draft was okay. It just came up to, in these team fights, I kept talking about it. The Gnar, you need to be able to find some of these angles, and it just ended up falling through so many times that even when it did end up working, even when Bajani did manage to find a good timing and a good ult, no one was actually able to follow it up. And even at the end, that was probably the best ult we saw from him. It's too late. You're down 6k gold. You don't have the damage to be able to finish anybody off.
I think something that I would like to see is, you've actually mentioned the Vex multiple times. I think the Vex would supply a lot of what both of these teams are going for, of these heavy initiations, right? You got like the Killer Instinct style ultimate coming out of that champion, and the amount of damage that you can supply in that small little AoE area. When it comes to having something, like an Orianna, of course, if you're talking about the mid laner, that's where she's going to go anyway. But if you've got a Gnar, if you've got a Leona with, with the Solar Flare like that, where you've got some of these AoE abilities to kind of lock down some members, if you could follow that up with something like a Vex, that would be great to see. But Serenok, I mean, right off the bat, this was I'm pretty sure, no, it was Strompus that got the responding pick. So of course Strompus is sitting on one of his most comfortable champions. You have to kind of acknowledge, if you're on the side of Bay State there, that hey, if I'm picking Orianna and Azir is still on board, that's what's going to be picked, and that's going to set me far, far behind in the early parts of the game. Dragonman also not showing up until a little bit later on, falling behind in creep in the early parts of the game. Honestly, it was a 40-minute game, right? It was kind of lackluster, but I'm pretty sure that the majority of gold, was held by Wildcard. And we can take a look right there. Yeah, when you're talking about a 1,200 gold difference, and that's the maximum that you're able to get in the game, the first good part of it, the first 10 minutes plus, were in favor of Wildcard. There was a little bit of time there, about 10, 12 minutes, where Bay State had a bit of an edge, but still not quite enough to actually make an impact on the game.
No, and you can see it, despite the fact that, yeah, you did mention the 1,200 gold lead. I think ultimately it just shows how long the game was so even for, and it really started to fall apart when Bay State weren't able to stack any more dragons beyond the second one. And even though we didn't see the soul come through for Wildcard, it was inevitable at that point. They were winning out on these team fights. They had the late game damage. When you just look at Azir, just look at how much damage Azir is able to do, especially with such a solid front line in front of him. I'm not even sure if Strumpus died more than one time, if at all.
Yeah, Strumpus was a menace. And with so many well-performing players on here getting the champions that they want to get, and that's, including looking at the bans of Karma, Lux, Thresh from Wildcard, the first 3 ones, Tom Kench, which is against Alarim, Rise, and Jinx, very particular ones for, same thing, it was Alarim and Strumpus, and then just taking away Jinx because, hey, we need to take away a strong ADC. It's impossible to ban out these folks on the side of Wildcard. You got to try to figure out a way to counter what they are choosing, and hopefully now that'll give Bay State the opportunity to pick the red side as they have gone down, and that gives them a lot more chance for counter pickability.
It's true. So maybe we'll see things mixed up in draft for the side of for Bay State. Maybe give themselves a draft where they can support Sophos just a little bit more, because Sophos at the end of the day, he was doing fine. Had a really strong CS lead, had some kills, was able to navigate these team fights decently well. You just think about the engage that they were working with and the engage that Wildcard had, and it made it a lot harder for him to actually play this game. So maybe if they're able to play for him more early, maybe draft a little bit more around him, we could see a different series. We could see a game 3.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to see after a break. But before that, of course, maybe in the next couple of minutes, you guys can look up Skulls. If you are looking to upgrade your gamer gear, you don't have to look any further here. You start your 2022 off right with the official Unified Esports merchandise brought to you by Skulls. There's hoodies, joggers, jerseys, armbands, much more to come, as this is just kind of the early part of the launch here. So you got the skill, you might as well show off the swag. It's Skulls, SKULLZ.com /collections-unified. You're gonna find everything that you need right there. So gear up, game on, get some Skulls, and we will be right back with more Proving Grounds after a quick break. Alrighty, thank you so much, folks, for sticking around. We are in what might be the last game of the day, depending on how Bay State performs here, because it is going to be Wildcard, who is sitting at match point going into this next one. Of course, side selection does go over to the losing team, and I'm gonna assume, while I don't have a ping or anything like that, I'm gonna assume that Bay State has selected the red side here to try to get some sort of counter picks. And yes, I just got confirmation. Thank you, production. You're the best. Just got confirmation that that is in fact the case. So Maroon has decided to try to get a little bit of counter ability, which I think is going to be very helpful for them. And of course, still joining me today is the wonderful Beatdown. How are we feeling going to this next game? Do you think we're going to see a game 3, or do you think Wildcard has it in them to stomp this one out?
Ooh, that's it's a little tough. I think it's possible that we could very well see a game 3. I don't think it's necessarily done and dusted, especially with that last one being 40 minutes long, despite Wildcard being in a really good spot for a lot of it. So it's possible, especially if you end up securing a maybe slightly different draft on the side of Bay State, to probably deny the Azir from Strompus, as he was a big damage dealer in that last game as well. I think it's just going to end up being a little draft dependent here. Because if we talk about like the actual play, I thought Bay State played fine early on. Yeah. It wasn't too bad. They were trying to be proactive. Dragonman especially was finding some of these plays early, some of these kills, really trying to get the ball rolling for the team. It's just the team fights didn't work out. So maybe if you're going to play around soft stage, just draft something a little easier to execute. And that's probably how you get to game 3.
You know, I did feel like, just kind of based on how Dragonmin has been playing the last couple of weeks, it did feel a little bit rougher for Dragonmin this game. Honestly, kind of through the whole thing. You had a little bit of bullying coming out of Griffin through the majority of things. And, you know, this was, I think it was second pick, if I'm not mistaken. However, they were on blue side. So, you know, the Xin Zhao was the second pick. It was revealed before the second pick comes through from that blue side in being the Lee Sin. So, you know, trying to maybe say, hey, Lee Sin is one of those that we have seen a lot of. As of late, we haven't quite seen as much success, right? The Xin Zhao comes in and obviously offers a very particular role in a lot of these win conditions. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, just getting the initiation and the engage, disrupting them maybe with the Crescent Guard, things like that.
True.
So, you know, while I like the Lee Sin, while I know for some players, and, you know, it is one of their strongest picks in general, I think maybe a little bit more sustainability. I'll go back to that from what we were seeing in the previous series. Sustainability is something that would really help this team out of the jungle.
Yeah, fair. I mean, Xin is just so much more straightforward when it comes to actually trying to set up plays, whereas Lee Sin, you have to find a lot of right opportunities. It's a lot easier to deny you as the Lee Sin player. So we'll see if Dragonman wants to actually continue going down that route. We could see a complete change up here in the draft, as we're gonna start that one off very shortly here. So this is still the last chance here for Bay State. Again, both of these teams are playing for a chance at playoffs, to be able to actually make top 8, get the most points they can to try and qualify for proving grounds here. The wild card looking like they're ready to just knock them out 2-0.
Yeah, feeling pretty good about some of the predictions here. I'm beating
maybe some of them.
All right, maybe some of them. It's true. I think we're pretty even keeled at the moment right now, especially with the other series still going on, as first game has just gone down. But we are going to be heading straight into the draft here, of course. And like we mentioned before, it is going to be Wildcard now on the blue side, having to make that first pick. Bay State on the red side. Even if it was the Caitlyn, that was a big first pick. Caitlyn is a big first pick. And man, while Suffolk stage really popped off there, it just wasn't quite enough to push things into favor of Bay State as much as they would have hoped.
And seeing the Karma and Lux ban kind of makes me think Wildcard aren't actually interested in playing Caitlyn themselves. They're just making sure, again, that that combo doesn't come through for Bay State side. Sophist and Brainy don't get the Caitlyn Lux, the Jin Karma, or whatever the case may be. So they're just going to try and cover all of their bases here, as Bay State going to do a lot of the same banning before as well. This first stage, definitely, no matter what side, just making sure the other team can't get specific picks here. This last one's going to be interesting. Will Bay State take away the Caitlyn just to make sure that they can deny it, or will they actually look to ban that Azir?
Last time it was, the Jinx was actually banned, so it was Karma Lux
okay,
Resh. So it is good. I was gonna say, if it's not a respect ban coming out of Bay State, I might need to have a word with these guys on this team, because Yes, the Tom Kench, that is a ban against Alarim. Yes, the Rise, that is a ban against Strompus. But with how well both the Azir and still the Urgot were played, how often we see these players on them, you gotta add one of the mix. And I love to see it. This is exactly what I just asked from Bay State. Get a little bit more resilience, a little bit more reliability in the jungle, and Viego will absolutely do that from the beginning of the game to the very end.
Yeah, definitely not as strong as Xin in the early game, but it's going to be a big problem later on for Wildcard here. And still the Caitlyn looking like it's going to be picked up for Sophist again. Like, he did honestly play it quite well. So it's fine, I think, ultimately to see if he's going to be able to make this one work here. The Xerath hover is definitely interesting because it's a big pick there for Serenok. But yeah, no, they're not going to pick it. Don't worry.
Okay, I was like, there's absolutely no way. I mean, not only sure taking it away, but that's such an easy counter ability. I mean, seriously, you set yourself up with some pretty direct crowd control, and it is going to be the Jhin in response here. So Wildcard starting things off in a very similar manner. It was just those two first picks flipped. And now we've got a hover here. Strophus is looking to have some fun, very clearly. You had the Xerath hover, all right. Now you have the Cassiopeia hover. This is one that I have not seen in quite a while because of the ability that you have to shut down this champion. She does have a difficult time recovering in the later game. The poison really adds a lot to the team, and it didn't quite feel so cohesive. So now we got the Gragas locked in, who we haven't seen, in a while now. Has actually been in the bans. I do think that was the final ban. Yes, the final ban that we saw coming out of Bay State in the second round in game number 1.
All right, it's another pick. Alorum has actually shown quite a lot of skill on and is able to have a lot of impact here. There's actually a chance could be Gragas support. I think it will be top lane, but it is nice for them. It's still a nice pick overall. Just I think it offers a lot of disengage with that exploding cask here. So I think that's a pretty solid pickup there for Wildcard. And on Bay State side, the Corki, I mean, I think it's fine. You want to just continue playing the range game like you have been. You have Caitlyn, now you have Corki, a lot of range poke, and the actual damage and scaling into late game is going to be nuts.
Scaling, that package damage is absolutely nutty. Now, I don't know.
That's true.
If it is, I think what we were looking at like a 4,200 kind of percent deal that we're looking at AP transition for the package. So that's why we have been seeing, a big spike in this play, as well as the scalability for someone like Corki, the ability to kind of hang back. Maybe not as much range as you're looking at when you see something like the Azir on the other hand, but a lot harder to play into if you are Azir than if you're going into somebody like an Orianna. So I do like that as a final lock, and we're going to see the Morgana and the Jace banned out here by Wildcard. Once again, Jace is going to provide a lot of extra damage here for the side of Bay State. It's going to be the LeBlanc and the Victor, so really focusing down that mid lane.
Right, I mean, at this point, just trying to make sure that you lose a good combo there with the Xin Zhao, and 2, a scaling pick as well. So you just try to take away as many tools as you can there from Strompus in that mid lane. The Azir is still technically up here, but I think this time around it would be a little bit harder to play just because the range is definitely going to be a problem. Thinking about Caitlyn, you think about Corki especially, you're going to get chunked out by those rockets, and it's going to pretty much set you out for that actual engage here. And I like the Thresh pickup. You don't usually see Thresh and Caitlyn, but I think ultimately that Dark Passage is going to be helpful at pretty much any point of the game, especially if Serenok plays for these insane Corki package angles, and you could actually technically lantern him out.
What are you talking? Where you been beat down? What, Caitlyn and Thresh is like one of the strongest combos right now in the game. I mean, we haven't been able to see a Caitlyn Thresh in like all of Proving Grounds. It is insanely strong right now, especially when you're able to lay a trap down, right? If you see a Death Sentence connect, all you do is Caitlyn, you throw a trap behind, then you anticipate that the Death Sentence is going to be activated a second time, you flay them back, and they're locked up for their entire life, right? It's so difficult to get out of that. And with Caitlyn having the range that she does, it's going to allow a lot of proxy ability coming out of the Thresh. I do, of course, like the response, because on the other side, another one of the strongest combos out there right now is going to be somebody like Jhin combined with the Nautilus, who has just so much crowd control to offer. So Wildcard is also going to pick up the Orianna here and say, hey, we saw you try to play it, we'll show you how it's done. Wildcard is a big fan of pulling that kind of play out. And then the final lock-in is going to be the Renekton to go up against this Gragas in Alarim.
Yeah, so you do get this ability to be able to push things out early on the top side of the map for Bay State, and this time around you do have easier to execute team fight. I think at any point in the game, Bajani, as long as he has R off, he can just press the button. As Doesn't have to worry about any Narvar, any of this and that. Just needs to find out, which is true of any case in whether it's Nar or Renekton. The ability to just find that angle to be able to pressure someone like Minui or Strumpus. That's what you're looking to do here in these team fights. And if you end up getting an early lead, it's going to make your job in that regard that much easier.
Yeah, some good initiation to follow up, on this long range that we've got from Serenok and Sophists Sage. I'm liking the composition that we've got here from Bay State much more. Not that I wasn't a fan of the previous composition. Like I said, the Gnar was a great counter pick into there and had some good potential. But, really I was kind of looking at the mid lane, the jungle, to have a little bit more of an opportunity for some survivability. And Viego, I could talk about how busted Viego is all day long. He is a champion that played from behind can become still an overpowered person on the Rift. So I like the idea here that Bay State is like, we're going to do the same kind of thing, right? We're going to play more, into, I guess, a bit of a late game, not so much as Wildcard was looking to do previously. And now Wildcard has kind of not flipped the script, but they've opened themselves up for, hey, if we do fall behind, we have late game potential, but we're still going to want to be putting on a lot of pressure in the early game because that's where we're going to be able to just kind of roll over the top of Bay State if we can get advantages over some of the players that they have picked in being squishy with like the Corki, the Caitlyn, things like that.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's working in Wildcard's favor is you do have a lot of CC with the ultimates and long-range engage here. If you think about that dredge line there coming from Pockus and the Nautilus that he's playing. But I think the other thing too is that Gragas is honestly a really interesting champ to engage with, especially because much like those other top laners, you want to find an angle, but your angle doesn't necessarily need to be like right up close melee range. As long as you're close enough to throw a cast in the middle of a group of enemy players, you can basically knock a squishy into your team, and it's easy for you to just end up blowing him up here. So that's something members like Sophists Sage, Serenok are going to especially have to be very wary of, because Alarum is going to be looking for them.
Yeah, Alarm's going to be looking for them and also looking to make a quick transition towards the mid lane. We saw it happen really quickly, actually, considering how slow the game was to start, considering how long that first game dragged on for. Alarum still was very quickly saying, all right, hey, a single tower's down, we're A-ramming it. And that's where most of the game took place, was straight up, it was around a couple of the objectives, but for the most part, it was trying to find angles for team fights within that mid lane. And with a couple of these adjustments here, it gives them some more opportunities for that. I do like the fact that Strumpus has the Orianna as well. That is a lot of mass potential for the remainder of the team to jump in. And it is a situation with Gragas. Occasionally you're like, ooh, we've got some particular positioned ultimates. I don't want the Gragas' exploding cast to prevent, to potentially make my ultimate a miss. But with the remainder of this team, that's really not the case, really not an opportunity that you're looking at, because that's kind of going to be a follow-up, right, to the team initiating with the Crescent Guard with the Shockwave.
Right, and that's why I'm looking at Serenok too, to be able to set up a lot of these plays with that Corki package, depending on the build he actually goes for, whether he's going Ludens for a lot of poke damage with those rockets, and a lot of package damage as well, or he ends up going just the usual crit for the Corki. I think either way, it's going to be a lot on Serenok to be able to set up. And I think in game one with the Orianna, he wasn't able to find as much as maybe he would have wanted to. So this time around, maybe this time he will be able to actually find something for the team and try to help with the setup here.
You got to expect, with the amount of attack damage on the side of Bay State, that he is going to go AP, right? He can still go with the crit build, but then where is the damage, that's supplied from the rest of Bay State? Let's head into game number 2, what could possibly be our last game of the day here on the Unified EA stream. Hopefully not beat down. We always love to see these things come to a nail biter, an edge of the cedar, going out to a tiebreaker to end things. But clearly, Wildcard doesn't want to be here any longer than they have to, and they have selected some solid champions to ensure they get some early game pressure.
Again, our eyes are on the early game to see how these teams are going to try and find some of these leads. Again, Wildcard, very happy, sitting at 1-0, one game away from locking their playoff stop. Bay State Maroon, on the other hand, they're in a bit of a tougher spot, Jolly. They need to make something happen, and you can already see it with what they're trying to do level 1.
Maybe going for something a little bit sneaky here. I like the recognition of, hey, you know what, let's try it. Let's see if, we have a couple of members come down here towards the bottom side. The second they say, okay, that's not the case, we need to recall, because the last thing you want to do with your backs up against the wall with the potential to be eliminated from this tournament and Proving Grounds is to give Wildcard Gaming a nice, easy opportunity to get something in response.
Now, looking like the level 1 not doing very much here. We have both junglers starting on the top side of the map. Dragonman, though, is going to get the leash, so they'll have the information. And I wonder if Dragonman is going to just go for the full clear, or perhaps he's going to just clear 4 or 5 camps and try to actually find a gank on the bottom side. Again, playing around soft stage. Definitely something I want to see them do.
Yeah, they're really going to have to, right? Especially considering even the conversation we had before this series took off, right, is talking about how Sophist Sage and Brain have made a name for themselves here in Proving Grounds as one of the strongest bottom laners in general. And so to actually see Manui and Pakis doing as well as they have been is very, very impressive. But you can tell that Bay State, I mean, these two bottom laners are like, all right, this is our game, right? We need to find some sort of aggression right here. But Johnny having the counter pick into this Gragas as well is going to find a little bit of pressure in the early parts of the game, and also doesn't have to worry about mana, which is definitely an early struggle for many top laners. And look at all the damage already that Alarum is taking. But Johnny doesn't even care how many minions are going to be firing at him, because he still has presence and pressure here in this lane.
That's right, and I mean, the heal is going to be a big deal for him as well, being able to keep that pressure on in the top side. I mean, it's why you picked this champion in the first place here. It's going to have to keep it up, just because Alarum isn't... This is going to be the isolated 1v1 for a couple of minutes, Jolly. Both junglers pathing away, hitting that level 3 mark, and you can already see the pings coming through as Griffin is on the move. He actually went for the 3 camp, and they're going to invade as a 3-man unit.
You did, I think, had eyes from Brain going on. It's going to force the flash away from Dragonman. The flash comes through from Pakis as well. It's going to be the Q, followed up by the passive. The first blood is going to go over to Griffin.
That's a really nice play from Wildcard Gaming. Just the fact that you know where, because of Bajani ends up going for the leash, you know Dragonman is going to be there at around that time, and you can see it. They move as a unit. Map is dark as Dragonman goes for the Scryer's Orb. He's like, wait a second. I didn't want this. Damn. And he just, that's it. There's nothing he can do. He flashes. His bot lane can't even help him.
And Manui there in that instance too says, I got a shot off. I'm okay on this other side of the wall, right? Yeah, you can flash over. Griffin made the long trek. Pakis did get the flash over. It's now a bit of damage here going on to Pakis. That means that Manui is able to just pop off these shots in response. The heal is going to come out from Sophist Sage, trying to find the 50 caliber net to get that auto headshot onto Pakis there. It's not going to come through, and Griffin is going to encounter a jungler right here in this drive.
Oh, nice
beautiful
hook.
death sentence to follow it up, and that means that very quickly that kill by Griffin is going to be countered by Dragonman.
And I like that. He shows up bot side just to see if there's another angle, maybe even just predicting the fact that Griffin is going to show up because his bot lane ended up being pushed in. Either way, positive play. Speaking of positive...
Oh, that should be a kill. That is definitely a kill for Bajani. Nice little attempt there by Alarum to, sustain himself with a pot, but also say, I can break vision. Bajani says, yeah, you can break vision. I can throw a ward, too.
That's right. At least Alarum will have TP, so we'll be able to... come back to lane relatively quickly, but overall, Bajani running the top lane in the early game like we expected in this matchup. But overall, Bay State coming out a little better in the earlier parts of the game. Dragonman sacrificing some of his farm time just to be able to help out the bottom lane is about more of what I was expecting.
So it's pretty good to be Bay State now at only 5 minutes in. We're already looking at 3 kills. This is so much faster of a game than we saw in number 1. It's not a speedy game by any means, but I think Bay State is recognizing that if we try to drag things out like we did in the previous game, Wildcard is probably going to find themselves some really solid positioning once more. They do have more, a lot of late game opportunities going into this. Of course, the longer the game goes, the stronger Dragonman is going to be. Same thing with Serenok with a lot of scaling. So it does feel good for Bay State to at least get some of this pressure early on. This is more like their normal play, right? Right, B-Town?
This is definitely more of what we would expect from them, especially with how good they are at taking leads and running them towards the end of the game. Exactly. So now, as you see the recall coming through, Minu in pockets. They know that wave will come back to them. You do have a pretty big buy so far from Sophist Sage coming back to lane with that Noon Quiver. So again, with Dragonman already on this side of the map, going for what I think is a Dragon take, he could end up going for a play once the spot lane ends up coming back as well.
I was going to say to Alarm, I mean, you put that much pressure onto a Renekton. The Renekton's probably got a good idea that there is somebody in the wings looking to respond to that one. So it is going to be Griffin who just has to recall right here. First Dragon very quickly being picked up here by Bay State. And they were the team that was able to pick up the first Dragon in the last game. So just a slight gold advantage for themselves right here, right now. But man, already with that first death sentence that we saw come big into play from Brain, I've got really good, it's a good sign just for the bottom lane to pop off as we kind of anticipated happening for Bay State in game 1.
And ultimately, still being able to get a lot of pressure on the wave, be able to push it. We're just going to see them actually go for another recall already here. But actually, I think it's because they have an inkling that Griffin is on the way. They end up dodging the play that could potentially come through. Now, ultimately, Dragonman just gets to farm up on the other side of the map here. He's getting really close to that level 6 mark. Probably will get it once he clears his top side. Because Dragon was taken while there's nothing to play for, Bay State could very well go for this top play and just play for the Rift Herald. You already see Sophist and Brainy on their way there.
Definitely looking for a play. Oh my gosh, so many pings coming out from Bay State. I think that's something that they already have improved upon from the last game. A good portion of the pings we saw coming from Wildcard Gaming on the red side. Maybe it's a red side thing, you know? Maybe you're in a couple positions where you feel like you're behind because you're on the opposite side of the Dragon pit. Or the Baron pit up here. So a lot of these plays you're trying to make quick. You want to be able to get make quick work of Shelly as well. But still, I mean, there have been pings the entire time I'm talking. Pings all up towards the top side of this map, recognizing, okay, hey, we've got Brain up here. We need to try to make a play maybe towards the mid side because we're not seeing Wildcard immediately responding in the transition. And there, of course, now we do. And Minui and Pockets reflecting that swap.
Yeah, and at this point, Serenok TPing back to lane already. Has the package, which means I think Bay State are pretty much guaranteed this Rift Herald as soon as they walk their way towards it. You also have the inkling that, yep,
ooh,
Brainy is here, and you got to flash if you're Strumpus. So all that pressure means it's going to be an easy Rift Herald pickup, and Bay State can actually use this to get some early plate gold into Sophist Sage pockets. Snowball them harder than you could in game 1.
Definitely. We want to try to snowball, especially having the Caitlyn one more time here, but to pair it up with somebody like the Thresh is really just an exceptional combination here in this game. So they're going to pick themselves up not only the first Dragon, but of course Shelly here. And now maybe making a move up as Dragonman can see there is a full vision ward there, meaning Wildcard does not have any sort of ward, at least in this close vicinity, close proximity. Out comes Ace in the hole. Try to poke down Minui, giving more of an opportunity for Dragonman to potentially make a dive here. As Serenok comes through, there is the package. It's going to be such a quick hook by Pockets. That was wildly impressive. Out comes the curtain call. Of course, it's going to be Dragonman who steps in front of all of these shots, as well as Sophist Sage can take that damage. No way, weaving! Oh my goodness, threading the needle onto that one. Almost getting enough damage onto Serenok. So quick reactions from Pockets, but not quite enough.
No, and ultimately, I think it was a good package from Serenok. But even a good answer from Pockets to be able to get that root and continue it on to be layered with that deadly flourish. So I think it's part of why no kills managed to come through and Wildcard prevent themselves from losing the full-on turret. But still, you get some gold into your pocket, which is nice. You do incrementally push that lead for Sophist Sage a little bit further like you want to. It's just gonna have to, you're just gonna have to keep up this pressure, keep on pushing the pace. Now that your Viego's past that level 6 mark, he can actually really start to be effective in some of these team fights with that Heartbreaker, the ability to reset more often with the souls.
It is honestly that Heartbreaker, it comes so heavily into play. And you know, while it's not even so much about the damage as it is about the repositioning, right? And sometimes it's throwing yourself over a wall after you initiate to try to steal away an objective, something like that. And you do have, you know, the potential here. It does look like Corki is going to be building AD. Of course, as we know, percentage of Corki's auto damage or attack damage is going to be converted into AP anyway. But that is still a good opportunity for Wildcard as a nice little hook comes through onto Griffin. In comes Johnny. The rest of Wildcard might not be able to get there in time. Griffin manages to barely make it out, but will likely go down here. One more auto is all it's going to take. And yes, Dragonman finds another kill for himself.
Still not bad for Griffin to be able to go 1-for-1 in that situation, especially starting it off with him getting hooked. But yeah, ultimately, Dragonman continues to accelerate on this Viego. It's going to be very, very strong later on into the game, as you highlighted when we were in Champ Select. Now, overall, because of when this happened, you can actually have time to play for Dragon again if you are Bay State Maroon. So far, they're 2-0 for the neutral objectives that have come up so far. And with these resets coming through, you can already see it. Brainy is on the way to set up some vision, and you have the others like Dragonman and Sophist Sage there to be able to try and pick it up.
Still not too far behind for Wildcard Gaming. They're feeling all right. Griffin has picked up the 2 kills for the team. Of course, 2 of those are on Dragonman. And Dragonman is going to feel more comfortable as this game goes on, right? Griffin has more of an opportunity in the early side, even though, a nice little shockwave is going to come through. But hey, Strumpus, you're going to be pinched amongst these 3 members here. Serenok might have enough. It's going to be a little bit of a death sentence just to ensure that Serenok is able to pick up that kill. And just like that, Bay State double the kills of Wildcard.
And then it's nice. They end up getting a little bit of turret plates, and the dredge line just misses, meaning Bay State can go ahead and make a play for this dragon here. Strumpus will have TP when this fight starts, but he's going to have to TP to that mid turret if he wants something to happen here. The problem is, though, will we actually see a fight? Right now, Serenok was actually forced to Valkyrie in a bit of an awkward angle.
The Dragons started, Bay State already having picked up all the objectives so far. I mean, only being 2 objectives. That hook, what was that hitbox? It is going to end up hitting. That means Pockets is going to go down, tries to dash away, but not going to be able to make it out of that one. And that means the Manui, I believe, had to stop out that curtain call just in recognition that we might be jumped on here.
Well, yeah, and it's going to be the second dragon here. We know it's going to be a Mountain Soul that Bay State Maroon are playing for, and they've been in this position before, Jolly. Picked up both dragons and suddenly lost the next 4. So this time around, they need to keep up this pressure. I think this is a great way to do it.
Good point. Oh my goodness. It's going to be a pickup there too onto Manui. I love that. They managed to keep Manui in a nice little position. Say, hey, you got that ace in the hole. Sophist Stage. Go ahead. Take this one.
That's perfect, and this is what I'm talking about. 2-0-1, up 20 CS, picking up these turret plates, some of which are going to be solo, Jolly. This is the bot lane of Bay State that I was talking about. Brainy having a great game on this thresh as well, and it's a lot of why Bay State are currently in the lead at the moment here. Now with nothing else to play for on the map, it's just going to be, they're going to catch Griffin.
Oh, Griffin, that is way too deep.
Oh, the
shockwave! You might have the dredge
shockwave?
line on this one. It is going to come through. Pox is going to take out Bajani. Out comes the box. A flash out of the walls of the box there by Pox, who's going to find himself in another death sentence, but that's totally okay. Griffin wants to continue on this fight. It's a lot of damage there onto Brain, but I think the target was Serenok, so they're going to break away.
Yep, Dragonman forced to... Oh, yeah, you got the blast cone, so you should be able to walk away from this one, but they're really trying to pressure him.
They really are, and this is in between 2 towers, right? I guess if you can just say, hey, we've kind of bullied you out of your jungle, we're gonna take the rest of the Krugs.
Moral
right here.
victory.
Yeah, it's a nice, it's a good extra chunk of change too. Krugs, right, providing a good amount of experience and especially gold for that one. So, yeah, moral victory is at least something, because as of late, the actual literal on the Rift victories have primarily been going over to Bay State.
And it shows in the 2,000 gold lead they have for themselves here. You're starting to see mythics come through for everybody, except for Serenok, who, of course, naturally went the Manamune first. But either way, Bay State, very, very strong position now. Soon we're going to see the package come back on the line, and with Herald coming up soon, you got to imagine Serenok's going to be looking for that.
Oh my gosh, Bay State looking for another thing here. Griffin is taking so much damage. Out comes the Crescent Guard to try to push them away. But Johnny, no, it's actually going to be Dragonman who picks up the kill there. Alarum doesn't have a lot of power left in this tower, but that's okay. It's enough to at least push away these other members.
Yeah, look, Bay State constantly just pressuring, going for these invades. Brainy and Dragonman holding hands, moving across the map, making plays. This is exactly what you want to be seeing from your jungle and support, and they are just doing such a good job this game. And it's manifesting in this lead that continues to grow, and it means Bay State get Rift Herald number 2. Realistically, there's nothing Wildcard can do about it. And the fact that no trade of objectives has ever been possible has been pretty nice too.
Yeah.
They got the first dragon before Herald spawned, and of course they got Herald after that as well. And it's just been back and forth, basically picking up every neutral in this early game. And they don't want to go home just yet, Jolly.
No, they're not going to let it happen that easily. Granted, 40 minutes, not an easy win, right? It's definitely something that Bay State says, hey, we're not going to go out as quickly as that. The package does end up being burned right there to escape all of this curtain call, and that's thanks to the presence of Pacus. So there's another small moral victory, right? The Wildcard can say, the package wasn't used against us.
Well, that's definitely a positive Wildcard have going for them here. But here's the negative, Jolly. Rift Herald is spawning. Griffin is caught.
Oh, out comes the box one more time. Nice little lantern grab right there means that no one is going to go down. Several ultimates did, though.
Yeah, and that means that the Rift Herald won't result in a turret going down, but ultimately, nobody ends up falling. You have Saranok who gets to walk down and take this bottom tier turret instead. And as we're 1 minute away from a dragon, Jolly, like, Bay State, they're looking for their sole point. Will they repeat the mistakes of last game, or will they actually manage to get a really strong game state?
They're so much farther ahead than they were in the last game, right? And we're actually seeing a lot more mistakes,
True.
a lot more catch-outs, right? Wildcard Gaming kind of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And particularly, I have to say Griffin, because Griffin was one of the outstanding members who had a lot of kills early on. Griffin and Strompist were the two members for Wildcard that were kind of keeping things in their favor, that were really allowing them to write the script for how these fights went out. But now you're looking at Sophist Sage and Dragon Mim, and that's not, if you were on Wildcard, not where you want Bay State to be able to add good majority of their gold to pile the kills onto. And as the game goes on, they're just going to feel better and better. These pings are going to be, I mean, I've already got pings in my dreams. They're going to be in my nightmares now. I don't know if you've heard all of these pings. Oh no, that's a horrible position. Pacus was not trying to hit the wall right there. It was max range. That means Bajani is going to be able to go in here, supply a lot of damage. Now has to back out, taking a little bit too much of his own. Ace in the hole is going to come through. Griffin tries to step in front, but it's absolutely okay because it's going to be a little dash away. Provides Alarim some shielding here. That does mean that Wildcard, while they tried though, probably are not in a position to prevent this dragon from being picked up by Bay State. Yeah, they're still trying.
Oh, they can't. They know they can't let this one go, but now Saranok, he's going to force Minui out. The TP's coming from Bajani, who's almost full health again. Now, that dragon's going to go through, Jolly. Now, Bay State are at sole point. And Wildcard Gaming are trying to trade the turret, but Bajani isn't even going to let them do that. So it's just sole point. It's just Bay State Maroon being up 4,000 gold, and Wildcard Gaming supremely on the back foot.
Absolutely. We're looking at less than 18 minutes now. Sole point from Bay State. They picked up both of the Rift Heralds. They have 2 turrets to 0 that Wildcard has gotten. And this is kind of what happens when Wildcard is pushed back against really, really hard in the early parts of the game. One of the things we talked about before this matchup even started, Beatdown, was just the fact that Wildcard Gaming kind of struggles to play from behind. Bay State, we saw it happen there in that last game, and of course it got to the point where those respawn timers were just so long, there wasn't much that could be done about it, but this is what we are used to seeing from Bay State. Early pressure, and if you put Wildcard up against a wall, it's going to be really, really uphill climb in terms of recovery for this team. We're not really seeing any of that so far.
No, and it's going to be tough. It just gets harder from here because we're 4 minutes away from the Dragon Soul here for Bay State Maroon. And if they secure that one, that's pretty much Bay State getting all they need to finish the game here, Jolly. They're already in such a strong commanding position. If you look at the gold lead, you look at the champions. Once Soft Stage gets to that 2-item mark, I mean, he's a good bit ahead. Oh, he's actually already there. A good bit ahead of Minui, which means that when these fights go through, he's going to be putting out a lot of damage, a lot more effective than in game 1 here. So Bay State, a good position, Wildcard hard pressed to be able to actually do something about it. You can see it. Griffin is trying. The vision game is quite strong.
Yeah, and especially when you're just trying to go in and clear out vision, you know, and then you're able to supply some of your own. You know, I've touched on proactive reactive play less than I generally do, but that's because we've been seeing, I mean, just a lot of really good responses. With this one, it is all Wildcard trying to just react to the solid positioning, what's already been taken, the already pretty big advantage that Bay State have created for themselves, and that's part of the reason they keep getting caught out in some of these situations. We might even see Alarum here get caught out. There is a ward in that bush, but with 3 members moving very quickly downwards, there's likely not a chance that he's going to be capable of doing anything aside from maybe throwing out his ultimate in his favor. There is the ultimate. We're going to be walking now into the enemy team's jungle. The pings coming through from the rest of the team. Nobody is making moves to try to help Alarum, so he's got to try to go for the teleport here. Can enough damage be done by Serenok? Barely staying alive. Alarum has so little health, but he managed it. My goodness.
Yeah, and it's tough. The timing means that Wildcard couldn't actually try and make a play for the Barret as it only had just spawned. You get TP out of the Gragas on the side of Wildcard Gaming. So that is still a big summoner you force out even if you don't kill him. And it does mean you get to push this mid turret. Wow, Sophist looking like he's getting very aggressive.
Oh my goodness, so much damage on to Minui. It was the Gale Force that is already expended here. Minui has one of his own in his pocket, and we can see that everyone has adapted pretty quickly to recognizing how much attack damage is on the side of Bay State. We've got plated steel caps across the board, of course, aside from Strompist, who is looking to get a little bit of extra AP penetration on his side of the team, and that could play into a little bit of the later game. Of course, we already talked about it, right? Big percentage of Corki's damage is converted already over to magic damage, but when that is the only magic damage supply that you really have on the team, will it be enough when you get late enough into the game to have some items, some defensive items on the side of Wildcard Gaming?
We'll see, because Serenok's actually going for the Luden's build. A lot of poke coming from those rockets, right. A lot of damage coming in from that Corki package as well. So it's going to be a lot of a lot of magic damage, definitely. Now Wildcard.
I saw the Manamune. I saw the early build of Manamune, which is totally classic. That's totally normal.
Exactly. So it's hard to guess right away, but now Wildcard trying to pressure, trying to set up as much deep vision as they can, because we're a minute till the 4th dragon of the game. So they want to try and get the best position they can, see if they can catch somebody out like that during a vision clear, because if they do, Wildcard can't get it.
Pocket's trying to find something here, needs to be able to respond. So much damage we just saw go on to Griffin, though, who has to back away from this fight in response to the damage is applied on the top side of Dragonman, who is forced to flash away. The Dominant is coming out. Alarum is going to take the ace in the hole to prevent Pox from going down this early in the fight, because they do need to prevent Bay State from picking up this Dragon Soul this easily and this early in the game, and they did a very solid job of that.
Still, it's tough. It cost them a lot of team fight tools to be able to do so. Jolly, they were hoping for a pick. Exploding Cast finds nothing. Shockwave and Curtain Call and Depth Charge don't find much of anything, and you still have a lot of your major tools if you are Bay State Maroon. So the TPs are coming through. The package is crucially available for Bay State Maroon. So at this point, they're going to have all the team fight tools they need. It's just going to be about starting it off.
And Alarum is looking to do just that. You get the Deadly Flourish to come out, a little bit of a stun onto Bajani, but Griffin has to use the Crescent to get out of this fight and to try to help Strompus from being collapsed on by all of these members. But that means that Griffin will absolutely be the one to go down. Strompus forced to flash away. A nice little follow-up there. I mean, Strompus will find a responding kill, but it's on to Brain, not necessarily the one you wanted on. Dragonman would be the perfect person to get taken out of this fight right now. And I do kind of feel like Wildcard started the fight around this Dragon Pit way too early. When you still have 30 seconds left on that, you're giving a big opportunity to Bay State. Maybe looking for something right there. We're gonna
they got it!
Coming from Pockets, they are going to be able to steal that. On top of it, you get a shutdown coming through from Strompus with a beautiful shockwave. But Johnny does manage to take down Pockets.
I mean, look at Strompus. So much damage in that last fight, and you could see it with the Q and Ws and how much burst damage he was able to put in. But the big one to highlight, Jolie, Alarum, when that Exploding Cast came back, he used it to keep Dragonman out of the pit. Wasn't able to actually commit the smite. Means it was easier for Wildcard to get the Dragon. You delay the soul, and they keep themselves in the game effectively by doing this.
Serenok still has not died yet in this game, too. You've got quite a few deaths now on the side of Wildcard. They are primarily onto Griffin and onto Pockets, and Griffin, being that Xin Zhao, does have to kind of get in the middle of things to set up the rest of the team. So could be a lot worse, right? A lot of these deaths could be on Manui, a lot more could be on Alarin, but the fact that there's no kills that Manui has been able to pick up here, even a single one going over to Pockets from earlier on when Manui was not able to be in the fight after going down. And then looking on the other side and those kills being right where you want them, aside from maybe Serenok being a little bit behind in kills, but still, again, having not died, has full boots, has 2 full items, is feeling very comfortable in this position still.
Yeah, especially with the fact, too, that Sophist Sage getting close to that 3rd item is going to be really, really strong once that IE is coming through. Bay State still in a good position. Wildcard, they slow it down a little bit. They buy themselves time by stealing that dragon. But we're going to have to do the same dance again in 3 minutes. And speaking of, Wildcard want to dance.
There it is.
Shockwave!
Comes out. A lot of damage to the Shockwave, and then on top of it, finally, Manui finds the first kill. It's going to be a beautiful explosive cask right there. Sophist Sage is going to be the target here. A nice Gale Force on top of it is going to allow the kill to come through, but it goes over to Pockets with the Ignite.
I mean, it's still very positive. You're going to be able to make a play for this Baron, although Serenok has a lot of these rockets ready to go, but Johnny is here as well.
Now, Strumpus is going to be the target here. Strumpus is able to stay on the backside, not with the flash forward. It's going to be a nice little pop-up, but Johnny takes a lot of damage here. Strumpus is able to move back thanks to a beautiful Zonia's. Still a lot of damage, and it finally gets a takedown there. Strumpus, the one to pick that up, forcing a flash by Serenok, who tries to use the blast code to get over the wall. It's Manui versus Serenok, and Manui finds the final shot, is able to get a kill there, and oh my god, Wildcard Gaming is transitioning things way back into their hands.
Oh, this is a great position for them to be in, Jolly. They reduce the gold lead further, and by finishing this Baron, they're going to even the game up. And oh, you can see a Griffin a little too deep.
Goes on the backside. Alarim is there to help out. The blast code's going to be used here by Griffin to go back in because they need to take this down. They need to prevent here this Viego from going over the wall. Shockwave on top of it. That's a lot of damage. Straubus is able to pick up another kill, all the while dealing damage to this Baron, and all 5 members managed to get out alive with the buff.
And that is unreal. Wildcard managed to pull it back together and find themselves back in the lead here. And you can see it, how this one is going to start. Griffin goes in, and you see all the ultimates start to come out. And honestly, it's been the shockwaves, I think, have been such a big tool here in these fights from Strumpus, being able to put out a lot of damage, being able to displace people so very well, and it's just putting Bay State in these positions where they cannot win these team fights. They lose too much of their health, and even in this situation here, but Johnny wasn't able to get on top of Strumpus because of the stasis here, and Serenok's poke just wasn't enough. Look at the health bars on Wildcard. The only one you could really threaten is Strumpus, and ultimately nobody could actually get on top of him.
It was kind of scary for Strumpus there, to be honest, after the follow-up. Not even just the fact that, hey, you know, you're peeling away this Renekton, this Benjani, but then to follow it up with the fact that Corky's going to be able to throw out, you know, I think it was the big one, actually, that managed to, 2 members managed to step in front of to prevent that damage from going over to Strumpus. It's very cool.
And there you go, Wildcard Gaming got a significant lead for themselves here. They got another kill, meaning Strumpus is currently unstoppable, and you're just going to be able to take down more turrets, stack more gold in your favor. What a sudden swing in favor of Wildcard. Now they're up 3,000 gold, and they're knocking on the base. All these traps coming through, I mean, sure, but what? It's not going to matter.
I feel like my face right now is your face after, you know, the game number 2 in our first series of the day.
Yeah.
I cannot, I can't.
I didn't.
I can't.
I almost spit out my tea. I was not expecting to see you on the screen, but
I just cannot. Seriously, this felt so heavily in Bay State's hands. Every single objective, you know, up until the steal from that dragon, which is the turning point. The first objective, aside from some of the towers, but even then those towers were picked up on the follow-up, on the Baron play. And look at this, 5,000 in favor of Bay State for a considerable amount of the game. We're looking at like 15 minutes that they had things in their favor, and immediately it gets spiked off in the other direction. Wildcard now looking at, you know, at 2K differential right now, but they still have 25 seconds left on this Baron play.
They've still managed to take so much. The gold swing is just unbelievable on Wildcard's side. And Jolly, it's happening again. Bay State, 3 dragons. Wildcard seemed to be stealing every dragon after that one. And now, 4 minutes. I think this next dragon is going to be their last chance, Jolly. If we find ourselves in the same scenario where it's 3 dragons apiece, Bay State, I think they're going to fall apart, and Wildcard's just going to take it.
And that's another thing to consider too. I was talking about all the deaths. I was talking about the minimal kills comparatively the Wildcard Gaming had on this. And of course, look where all the kills went. On to Strumpist, who is not just one of the strongest members of this team, but has the ability to excel as we get towards this point in the game. The shockwaves have been so on point. And on the other side, Serenok, while we've been anticipating Serenok, popping off, getting a lot of damage in the early parts with excellent positioning, finding a lot of those successful fights for Bay State, it's kind of just it's like sand. It's like they're cupping sand in their hands. Their fingers are slowly being separated. They're being forced apart by Wildcard, saying, haha, you're trying to hold it, but you're not going to be able to with some of these plays that we are capable of making.
Yeah, and at the moment now, with Baron being the neutral coming up sooner, they're going to just start setting up vision on the top side of the map here, Wildcard Gaming. And they have pretty much every lane pushing in their favor at the moment here. They have so much priority to be able to go for these invades, set up all this deep vision. And now, Jolly, all they have to do is wait. Clear some waves out, walk into the jungle, and just wait. Because the map, if you look at Bay State's perspective, it is dark. They don't know what's going on in there, Jolly, and they're going to have to find out pretty soon.
They do. You've got a couple minutes for at least the dragon, but in the meantime, Wildcard says, all right, we used up all of our Baron buff. That's okay. We still have prowess right now here. We still have a lot of survivability. You've also got that red buff having been picked up by Minui. And so Bay State has to move forward being so careful. Of course, Alarim doing what he does best. It doesn't matter what champion he's on. He's going to try to do some side laning. He's going to try to do some split pushing. Of course, in this instance, as with most of the team being on the top, considered the side lane, and Alarim here in the mid lane. But kind of the name of the game has really changed. Last game, it was all primarily mid-lane fights, and now this is very much Wildcard saying, hey, we got to take a step back. We have to let Bay State think that they're in charge, and then very quickly realize that's not the case.
Well, I mean, Bay State, they don't think that anymore. I can tell you that with the utmost certainty, and we can see it. Like, if we could just get a quick vision toggle just to see what Bay State are walking into, it is not going to be very much with pockets. I mean, look at that. That last ward they had, that last bit of vision Bay State put on that side of the jungle. Just look at that. Nothing but darkness, Jolly. They don't know where they're looking. They don't know where people like Pockets or Griffin are going to be, and it is just so difficult. All that Johnny can do, try and push some waves in on the side, use his TP when he can to join the fight. That's it.
He's still behind a level here, though. Of course, even though he is ahead in CS, even though he is far ahead in terms of kills right now, sitting at 4-3-1, he has been pushed around this map into different areas to prevent him from actually picking up as much experience as he would have liked. And now Bay State trying to maybe find a sneaky play of their own in collapsing on Wildcard's jungle with the recognition that Wildcard just spent all of their time clearing out Bay State's jungle. But how much pressure can you put into the opposing jungle when you've got a Baron that is up, when you've got a Dragon that is coming up in a minute, and it will be Wildcard Gaming making the recognition that Bay State is not anywhere to prevent this Baron from being picked up.
That's right, TP's coming through. Wildcard, they're ripping this thing apart. It's going to be so quick. It's gone before they even know, and will they be able to walk away is the question here. Alarim, of course, is nearby in case the play is being made, but ultimately that's it. That's the heist. Wildcard, 5 Baron buffs, another 1,500 gold in their pockets, and 3 minutes of pretty much constant lane push wherever they end up being. Their only saving grace for Bay State is that because you know they're on recall, you do have time to set up vision. You can see Brain going for it, setting up wards, pushing with his jungler as much as he can, and you got to hope you find an angle to be able to take this dragon, because this is the soul for Bay State. This is their only way back in it.
This is huge. If Wildcard is capable of taking this away, it's going to potentially spell disaster here for
Serenok's package.
Looking for an opportunity here to maybe get Strump's ult thrown out. Try to stay on the back line.
Watch Alarim.
Flash away right there as Brain ends up taking the last shot. It is going to be, things are going to be started up here, and the package has to be used. That was a really interesting choice. Strumpus decides to go for the dragon there, has to package over the wall, is now separated from the rest of the team. Alarim goes in, but Johnny will be the next target here. Strumpus taking a lot of damage, but Johnny has to walk away from this because Pockets is there in the wings, has the opportunity to throw down a lot of crowd control. In the meantime, Griffin has found himself soloed out now by Bajani after picking up the kill on top of it, taking down Brain, who thought he had escaped with a flash over the wall. The rest of the team, Manui, Pakas, now going to be able to help out Griffin here. Griffin finds yet another kill, and oh my goodness, there's still a Baron buff on all of these players. They still have a minute and a half, and this could be the end of the game right now for Bay State, at the end of the series and the end of Proving Grounds.
Gonna be it. Bay State Maroon, long spawn timers, but no minion wave mid lane. So it looks like, wow, we have pretty much the great escape, or at least what was the great escape happening on the top side, but another player down, not able to escape, does mean they could go for the end here. The waves are coming in the base. Jolly Wildcard are sending Maroon packing.
This is it. This spells the end. Only 3K now in favor. Look how quickly they're taking down these objectives. In the meantime, they're able to pick up kills on top of it. These members of Wildcard Gaming don't even need to focus on the Nexus. The minions will do that for them. They can just pad their stats with some extra kills. And just like that, Bay State, looking like they are staying in the game and pushing this out to a number 3, are not going to find success here. All it takes is one good fight from Wildcard, and they turn things in their favor. They end it in an 0-2, and you're right, they send Bay State packing.
Well, Wildcard Gaming, a great series from them, looking so much better than they did last week against Golden Guardians Academy. Really bouncing back this week, and you could just see it in how they play. Game 1, things even for a long time, and you kind of highlighted it. One fight, and they managed to pull ahead, take Baron, start taking turrets, continue to advance your gold lead. Game 2, it's an even worse situation for them. The fact that they were able to fall so far behind and get their way back in this situation where Bay State, again, 3 dragons, both Rift Heralds, not able to close out on the soul. And because of that, it was just this slow decline into what was eventually an 0-2.
My heart is actually beating so fast. Like I'm having to do some breathing exercises right now, and I was not even playing that game. Things look so dang good for Bay State, but my goodness, Wildcard said, you know what, we're done. We really don't want to play this out much longer. I need to know what was going through their minds to be able to turn around a game like that. And the gold, it wasn't incredibly heavily in favor of Bay State, but it definitely was. The game was absolutely in their hands, and somehow, some way, Wildcard got it within themselves to shut down some of these primary carries on the side of Bay State and really pump up, in particular, Strompist, of course, as we saw popping off in both of those games. Just incredible.
I think we got to give a lot of credit to Alarum in Game 2 at the very least.
Oh, yeah.
The way the way he was team fighting, the way he was finding all these angles, using these explosive casks to be able to break up fights, isolate people, end up stealing that dragon, which would have been Bay State's soul, for example, has been a big key on why they managed to pull that win together. I think Strompist also had a great game on Orion. Of course, the whole team played like very well. You got to give every player on the roster credit. Those are just like the highlight moments for me in Game 2.
Oh man. Okay. All right. We got to take a break.
You need some water?
I've chugged through all my water, all my tea. Honestly, that was such an insane game. Luckily for you guys, we're not just going to get a winner's interview. We are going to be able to talk to one of the players on the losing team here in Bay State as well, to give them a little bit of a goodbye from the Proving Grounds for now. Wildcard finding themselves moving into playoffs for next week. So stick around. We will be right back with a couple of interviews here on Proving Grounds Closed Circuit. And we are in starting things off with in a gym. I love your background there, Sarah Nog.
Thank you.
It's very fitting with that with that shirt that you've got going right there. It is it's a devastating loss to have that one kind of turn around in favor of Wildcard Gaming. So I guess just to start things off with game number one, it kind of felt a little bit slower than usual for you guys. Usually you kind of come out the gates, you hit the ground running, and you try to find as many early advantages as you can. Obviously, it ended in 40 minutes. What was kind of the reason or the thinking behind starting this one a little bit slower than usual?
I think that one of the reasons that it was like a slower, it was because they were like heavily playing towards mid. Like you could tell on game one, they were like heavily playing towards mid. So it was like I feel like we were after that we were like very reactive in the game, so we couldn't really like have the game to our favor. So we kind of like slowly scale and like trying to get back into the game, but it was like way too hard because we get so many objectives and so much stuff for free.
Yeah, and kind of talking about objectives too, and going into game number two, you guys had every objective, right? Going
Mhm.
into the Dragon Soul that ended up being stolen. What do you guys do kind of in those scenarios to try to recover, or what is going through your minds when things start to kind of take a turn for the worse that you notice to maybe keep you guys on track, and maybe what went wrong with that one today?
Okay, that was like a little bit unexpected. I think it was like a miscommunication by everyone on the team because we had the Dragon Soul secure, but we honestly communicated so bad. But after that,
Mm.
it's like especially me, I'm like really good at like calming down the team, be like, okay, don't focus about that, let's move on and move on to the next play. But I mean, they play better as a team. Like they know how to play from behind. They know how to play also when they have an advantage.
Mhm.
So I mean, they were better.
Yeah, well, better from behind than we've seen them in the past. I'm not going to lie about that. But you know what? I'll say then I'll ask you, I guess, a personal question here.
Mhm.
If there's one thing really that you could have changed, and I'm assuming maybe just based on your previous response, I kind of know the direction. If there's one thing you could have changed, whether it's about your individual play style there, whether it's about something that happened within the team that probably could have turned things around, what would that have been?
Um, Honestly, within the team, I mean, probably I don't know. It's hard to say because
Yeah, sorry, that's a tough one.
it's hard because I mean we clearly like you guys can clearly notice like just like watching us play that one thing that we are like really weak is like in on communication, especially
Mhm.
like when it comes to objective. You can clearly see like if you watch the game, I think it was game number one, the Dragons. Like instead of just committing for stuff,
Mhm.
we just dance around. So honestly, I feel like probably just more practice. I would say as a team, honestly. I would
Yeah,
just
that's
yeah
what I thought.
yeah I would
Just based
just
on your first question,
yeah I would
your
just
first
change the
answer.
way we practice or something because
Okay.
something is not working.
Yeah, so communication, maybe
Hmm.
commitment to the calls.
Yeah,
It kind of
commitment.
sounds
Yeah.
like. Yeah. And okay, I'll ask you one final question. Going into this, I kind of want to it's going to be kind of a bit of a two-parter, right? I want to kind of know about your experience with Bay State, how you've been enjoying that, and then maybe what you guys are going to be looking forward to in the next qualifier, bringing forward as an improvement of a team.
Uh, so far I like it at Bay State. Like, I mean, I like the school. Especially I like the location too. It's very nice where it is located. The team, I like the players. Like, I actually bonded with the players really well, so I get along with everyone. Like, I can tell someone, hey, you did this wrong, and they're not gonna take it personally
Mm.
because I'm actually saying it for them to improve, not for them to
Right.
feel down. And like that's a cool thing about us that whenever we say stuff to our faces, we don't take it personally. We actually take it as a like so like a compliment because he's trying to help me
Yeah,
improve, you know. But so far it's
that's
been great.
great.
Yeah.
That is very good to hear. Well, hey, we look forward to seeing you guys at the next closed qualifiers. And hopefully, now that you've kind of narrowed down some of those issues that maybe you guys have as a team, you can spiff those up and come back and take Wildcard down in the future. But, we really appreciate being able to cast you guys. We appreciate seeing all of your improvement throughout the last couple of weeks. And of course, I appreciate you answering some of my questions. Thank you so much for doing one of these interviews. A lot
Yep.
of teams, a lot of players are not quite in a mindset. So it's good to see that you've got you got that stability going for you, and that's definitely a good thing for a player. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you talking to
Yeah,
me, and good luck with everything moving forward.
thank you. Now it's just time to hit the gym and release the anger.
We are back with my final interview of the night, and of course, it's the man, the myth, the legend himself, your mid laner, Strumpus for Wildcard Gaming. My goodness, Strumpus, I'm not going to ask you the silly question of how are you feeling after that, because it's got to be fantastic. But I do have to ask what your guys' mentality was at the turning point in game number 2, when you were able to steal away the dragon first off and then transition things into a Baron play. How were you able to keep a level head like that? And was there anything in particular going through your guys' minds or comms that helped you turn around the game?
I mean, it was pretty funny to watch Gragas steal the Drake. I think that was definitely a really good play. We were just constantly looking for angles to claw back into the game and thinking about like Corki package, any fight timers we can take where he won't have that. And yeah, we felt pretty composed for the most part. Just trying to find a way to win and turn it around.
Yeah, and you know, I don't want to call you guys out or anything, but you know, one of the things that we've seen you kind of a little bit weaker in the past is turning these games around. So is it usually like a single call out? Is it one of those things where you just do say, hey, what are the angles that we can take, or what kind of changed maybe over the past couple of weeks to help you guys position yourselves into a bit of a more recoverable situation?
We just like to play around, or at least we try to play around our vision and our setup. And like if they're disrespectfully walking in, we're just gonna go for the turn angle, and that's where you find the windows of opportunity to claw back into the game. And I also think a good contributing factor to like improvement is I was kind of sick for the past couple of weeks, but now I can speak again. So yeah, we were just scaling at this point.
Well, that's great. So you guys still performed incredibly well, even with you being sick. And wait, so you couldn't talk. So, are you one of the primary shot callers on this team? Did that affect the shot calling and the communication between the team? Or is it kind of across the board? Is there a particular shot caller there for you?
Right now, we're just kind of developing our culture, so there's no one that's like primary or anything. But the information and communication, like it was definitely affected because like it would hurt if I talk. So now it doesn't hurt. So yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you're not hurting to talk anymore, because that is a very important part of this game. And not only this, you're not only a part of Wildcard, but you are still, of course, on St. Louis University's team. So what's the dynamic kind of first off, coming to this team as, you know, like so quickly, so recently, and then also kind of having to maintain yourself in 2 teams?
So for the majority of the days in the week, I am like double blocking with both my amateur and college team, so it's pretty busy for me anyways. But yeah, I just try to make the best out of like every game I play in scrims and solo queue.
Excellent. A lot of solo queue players we know kind of struggle with the teams, so it's awesome to see you doing so well on both of them. I'll end this with one final question, because you guys have solidified your spot in the playoffs. So is there, of course, without giving anything away, right, is there any particular maybe mindset, maybe any sort of particular training that you guys do ahead of time to set yourselves up for that, especially going into playoffs with such big name teams?
Well, everybody practices, and like we do draft prep and scouting beforehand, so I guess that's our process. Yeah, and I just want to see how far we can go in this tournament.
Awesome. Well, you were absolutely mind blowing. They keep asking me, you know, who do you want to talk to for the winners interview, and literally everybody in the channel was like, Strumpus, we need to talk to Strumpus. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna throw one last one in there, just because I can, because I'm talking to you. You and Alarin both have a ridiculous pool, okay? If there's a situation where somebody is able to put all 5 bans onto you, do you think that is enough to ban you out? Or is your champion pool just deep enough that you can do anything?
I mean, I can bust out like 15 picks, so I don't think it really affects me much. And the deeper you go, it's like the non-meta picks, I'm more comfortable on them. So
I love it. I love to hear it. That spells some good things then coming into the playoffs for you guys to maybe pull out some cheeky picks. Either way, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for putting on an amazing show for us to watch. Thank you for chatting with me. And hopefully now you can wind down with a bit of a cup of tea and maybe a game or 2 to yourself. So thank you so much for being here. Of course, thank you to everybody who was watching. That is going to do it for us for the day. Oh, never mind. We're just gonna say bye to Strumpus. I get to talk to Beatdown again for a second. So thank you so much for joining us, Strumpus. We really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Beatdown, we're back. We're back. I almost cut you off there. But we are back in it. Can you? Oh, you can't.
Can't hear you, Jolly. What's
There we go. Now you should be able to
Oh,
hear
that's
me,
right. You weren't in
There we go.
hello.
I was in the interview channel still.
I know.
Yeah. So I was gonna say I almost cut you off there, trying to throw it out. But honestly, hey, this is the last. We got a date tomorrow, but as
We
for
do.
playoffs, we're gonna be doing that next week. Anybody you wanted to thank? Any last minute words before we head out of here tonight?
I want to thank you, Jolly, for not asking me to make the twit longer.
Yeah, we did have a conversation about that earlier as we take a quick look at this breakdown for match predictions. We constantly have a couple that are counter to each other, and I don't want to be that guy, but feeling pretty good about today's predictions.
Jolly, I don't want to be that guy, but why don't we look at the number above our heads?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I just want to say, I got 3 out of 4 wrong today, and I'm still ahead
Still
of
at
everyone
first.
else. So I want everyone else who's watching the stream to know y'all are pathetic. I'm still winning this. There's nothing you can do about it. Have we not done the math yet? I'm not winning anymore. Never mind. That's good.
Oh,
it would have been super depressing if I was winning after that. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, Orbital is winning. Of all the Orbital is winning, man.
Whoa,
we gotta
you
feel
hear
bad
that,
for
Orbital? She's trash talking you now.
having been on this. I mean, come on. Hey, we've been doing these predictions for a while. I'm still wearing my crown from scouting grounds of last year in the summertime or late.
You mean
summer
2020?
2020. Well, no, it was okay. Scouting proving grounds of 2021 too.
Oh, okay.
Proving grounds 2021 tied with Magical for first place. So I'm still wearing that crown. All right. If I was to take another one, it would just be unfair to everybody else.
I see.
I gotta give some over. But I love to see that some of these underdog teams did kind of come through.
Sure.
Of course, Radiance Bay State ending up having to go home. But my goodness, it has been such a pleasure to be here in the group stage. Of course, day 5 was today. We got to be around for 3 of those days. I cannot thank production enough. I cannot thank everybody behind the scenes, even for including me, allowing somebody who says some of the dumbest things to be on your broadcast. That's pretty bold of you all, but I appreciate being here. And of course, Beatdown, we've got to cast several things over this last weekend. It is an absolute pleasure being able to call stuff with you. And we will be back tomorrow on the Academy stream.
Exactly.
Yep. So, hey, this isn't the last you're going to see of us, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, you'll be there tomorrow. We'll be there next week. You can't get rid of us.
That's
We're
true.
here forever now.
You can if you wanted to. We are going to close out on that, though. Thank you to everybody at home who is watching. Of course, Skulls, check that out if you want to find some amazing Unified merchandise. Thanks to Unified. Thanks to all the players for being here and playing through some amazing games with us. But we will see you next time on the Proving Grounds.